Good evening. The regular meeting of the Richmond Board of Education will come to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sandy, if you could please read our mission statement and take roll call.
Sure. At Richmond Community Schools, we provide a quality education that empowers students to be successful in a global community. And I will do roll call. Candace? Here. Deb?
Here.
Kelly?
Here.
Angela?
Here.
Margaret?
Here.
Danielle is absent with notice. And I am also here. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Before we approve our agenda, we need to make a correction or a change. Item 8A, number 4, we are removing that item due to the fact that the presenters were not available this evening when we switched our meetings. So we will reschedule that piece at our next meeting. So I am looking for a motion to accept the amended agenda.
So moved.
Do I have support?
Support. Sandy.
Thank you. All those, or any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Support. Sandy.
Thank you. Do I, Mr. Walmsley, any discussion?
Sure. In your packet, you have a revised personnel report as well as a revised letter received. Resignations and retirements. Mr. Berg will be resigning as middle school track coach due to a conflict in his schedule for the spring sports. Mrs. Lepak, high school counselor, has submitted her resignation retirement letter, effect as they indicated in the backup. New hires, we have Luann Ballard, a custodian. Greg Gee, freshman baseball coach, Alex MacArthur, track coach. Nicole Rose, COVID-19 aide, and Jessica Schaefer, special education parapro. Notice of appointments, Brandon Day, spring event coordinator. Julie Nader, school improvement co-chair. I received no errors that were brought to my attention regarding the February 27th board meeting minutes, and there were no questions regarding the claims and accounts for this month.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Walmsley?
No.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, our Blue Devil Raves, I'll just go down the line here. Sandy, do you have anyone?
I do.
Okay.
So I know I'm probably a little bit late on this one, so I apologize for that, but a little late is better than never. I know that the choirs and the chorale, they went to a solo and ensemble back in January, on January 13th and 14th, and I just would really like to recognize them and congratulate them for how awesome they did. The high school chorale, the high school choir, the high school select ensemble all got Division I ratings, which is, I know, really hard to do and very exceptional, so good for them. And then also a Samantha, I apologize if I say these names incorrectly, but a Samantha McCarty and an Eden Tabor did a duet, and they also did a Division I rating, and that I think is amazing, so good job.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Angela?
I'm all set this week, thank you.
Candace?
I'm all set.
Margaret?
I'm all set.
Kelly?
I wasn't at the last meeting, so I don't know if it was mentioned, but since you're here, I wanted to say middle school did a fabulous job at the dodgeball. It was a great turnout. I couldn't believe how many people were there, and it seemed like the kids all had a really good time, so thank you for that.
I wish to acknowledge Stephanie, Nicole, and Heidi Mangoni from the elementary school, and Katie Kelly and Jennifer Morella from the middle school. I read almost every day last week in their buildings, and they worked around my schedule. Emails went back and forth because my schedule changed. I had a great time. The kids were great, so I just wanted to thank all four of you for working on my schedule and having a great experience for me. Okay, next, Mr. Walmsley, is there anyone you wish to acknowledge?
Yeah, I'd like to acknowledge as a team, Mrs. Pinsky, Mrs. Klein, Mrs. Manguni, Mr. Gibson, and Mrs. Ogden. Last week we did kindergarten roundup and preschool roundup, and the ladies and gentlemen had a little different idea of how to do registration this year. We still do the online registration, but offering in-person registration to complete it. And at this point, in the 9 years I've been here, we have more kindergartners registered, completed at this point than we have had in the 9 years I've been here. So it's a good sign, and just thanking the team for thinking outside the box and trying to make it as convenient for families as possible.
Thank you. Okay, for our presentations for this evening, under District Spotlight, our first one is the Richmond Masonic Educational Grant, and that's with Mr. Singh. If you'd like to step up to the podium.
Good evening, everybody. We're members of the Richmond Masonic Lodge. Can you hear me? There we go. Okay. We're from the Richmond Masonic Lodge here in Richmond. It's a Masonic organization, and for those who were here last year, probably people say, well, who are the Masons? Well, everybody's heard of the Shrine, Shriners Hospital, Shrine Circus. Well, everything starts by being a Mason. You have to be a member of the local lodge before you can be in any of those other organizations, including the Shrine. So that's who Masons are. They've been around forever. We've been in Richmond for 100 and how many years? 1864. 1864, we were founded in Richmond, and we also service the communities of Armada and Memphis. So we started an educational grant a year ago in the 3 school districts in our footprint, and working with the superintendent, and thank you, Superintendent Wands, you made it very easy for us to do this again. And so we did this grant for teachers to use in the classroom as they see fit. And so we have a presentation we want to make tonight. But to do that, I want to also introduce the title is Worshipful Master of the Lodge, which is like another title for like the president. But Roy Anderson is the Worshipful Master or president of our lodge, and I should turn it over to him.
Thanks, Mark, for putting me on the spot. Just want to say this is something that we're very proud to do for our communities that we represent. And as you know, we've been doing the Books for Blakes here for a long time too, and that's one of our prides that we like to do. Like to serve our community as any way we can. So that's who we are as Masons.
So we'd like the recipient, our teacher.
Thank you.
So, thank you. Hope it goes a long ways to encourage the students to embrace the arts.
Thank you. Our students are very grateful. Thank you so much. Yeah.
We had a very nice card made. Thank you.
Of course, thank you.
Do you want me to take your picture?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm not hurt.
We didn't think.
I'll get it.
Get you right in the middle.
All right. Thank you.
Come on up here, Mark.
All right.
She can't see us. Can't see us. That's right.
Thank you very much.
Okay, our next item on our agenda is the We the People National Finals Competition request presented by Dr. Ladd. Dr. Ladd and team.
Okay, well, if you recall, last time I was here, I was bragging about our third place finish at the state tournament. And, what, 3 or 4 weeks later, I got an email from the We People, the Center for Civic Education. They explained we qualified for the national tournament for the first time in school history.
Wow.
It's a 3-day competition against all 50 states to include District of Columbia. I believe there's a total of a few states that make it this year, so there's a total of 48 different schools from all over the country that compete. And again, I mentioned last time, this is a great program, and we have great kids. So I brought them up to talk a little bit, since you shared there's kind of stories and why they do this and what it all means to them. But first of all, I just want to say thank you to Mr. Walmsley, the board, because again, this is hard to put together. It's last minute, and it's a lot of money. Okay, and we really appreciate it because we couldn't do it without you. And within 72 hours, the board, Mr. Walmsley, we got the okay, and we're in competition mode, and we're getting ready to go. So I can't thank you guys enough for this opportunity for kids. Okay? Who wants to step up?
No, you can go, Olivia.
I'm Olivia Durst, and We the People is basically a competition between AP government students that promotes civil discourse with the Constitution. And
I'm Alexandra Dasuki, and I am currently a part of We the People, and I just wanted to input how much of an impact this has had on my life and just my education. Dr. Ladd is an amazing teacher, and without him, I don't think we would have been able to prepare ourselves as much as we did for our district tournament and state. The reason why I decided to join this class is mostly because of We the People. It's a very rigorous and amazing opportunity to just learn more about the government and what society we're currently living in. And it's really opened my eyes, and I'm sure everyone here can tell you the same thing, that it's really changed the way we look at life in our government. So. Next.
Hi, I'm Connor Gershon. We the People has been easily one of the most fun classes I've had throughout high school, but also one of the most challenging. Throughout classes, we're either researching every day about certain topics that we're going to discuss in the competition, or Dr. Ladd's giving us discussions in class that you really don't have in any other classroom. AP Government is definitely, it's definitely opened my eyes to see like how in depth you can be with learning certain things like the Constitution, and it's way different than any other class. And I thank Dr. Ladd and thank you guys for allowing us to go to the national tournament. It'd be great.
Hi, I'm Ella Guru. Kind of what Connor was saying. It has been one of like the most challenging classes I've ever taken, but I think it benefits me in a good way. It helps me with public speaking, which I actually struggle with, but it helps me not only in that way, but by learning, researching, like all that.
Hi, my name is Kelsey Hendry. This program has helped me in a number of ways, not only educationally, but I've also never really been one that's crazy about public speaking. I've always been really shy, and We the People has really helped me to come out of my shell, be brave, step up, take responsibility, and I feel that overall it has really helped me as a student and as a person. Thank you for having us today.
Hi, I'm Kevin Pierkowski. I'm going to speak for everyone, but I think we all love competing, especially in this. I think the debates are so much fun, and the studying is really difficult, but I think we all manage. And going to Washington, D.C. for the Nationals is such a blessing. As I said, we all love to compete, and this is the highest level here. We will be facing the best schools in the nation here, and otherwise, I think it would be very beneficial as a history class to go see all of the history in Washington, D.C., from all the monuments and just all the history in Washington.
I'm Lady Wagner, and all I'd really like to say is I'm very thankful to be able to have this opportunity to go to Washington, D.C., and to be able to speak in front of many other people and do this again because it was so much fun to do last time. And it's just a very great opportunity. So I'd just like to thank you guys and thank Dr. Ladd for letting us experience this.
Well, just, as Tally kind of said, just, I mean, the top 50 high schools in the country, and Richmond High School is now one of them. And I think that says a lot for our kids, says a lot for our community, and says a lot for all of you. And we just want to say thank you, and that's why we're here tonight. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm just going to, my fellow board members know I have raved about these kids. I went to their competition at Michigan State, and it's funny to see them standing up in front of us and being a little shy because they sure as heck weren't at the competition. They are amazing. They are brilliant and confident, and it was so exciting to be there. I'd never been to a We the People competition. I've done the mock trials, but not We the People. And the respect I said before that Dr. Ladd had from every judge that walked in and out of that room was just a wonderful thing to behold. And the respect that our students have for him, that's why they did so well, that's why they do so well. I think you guys are amazing, and I was thrilled beyond thrilled when I heard that you got this national bid. So just go and do what you did last time, and it's gonna be fabulous because you're great.
Yeah. Can I also say something? Just to echo Margaret a little bit, I think that this is an awesome program. I think that you guys are amazing. I'm so excited for you guys. I mean, where else do you get to be congratulated for arguing well, right? So, good job.
Anybody else? I just want to say good luck.
Yes.
Just go, enjoy yourself, enjoy the experience, and we're looking forward to hear when you come back. I would love to hear how it went and how everything went on.
Absolutely.
Safe travels. We'll be voting later, but so we can hang around if you want to.
I'll officially send an email with the official vote. So if you want to go home, you can.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item on our agenda is the Richmond Education Foundation Classroom Mini Grants, and Ms. Telto will be doing that presentation tonight.
Thank you. It's a little different being on this side of the table, but for those in the audience, I'm Margaret Telto, and I am president of the Richmond Education Foundation, a group that I am extremely proud to be a part of. I have some of our board members are here this evening. We have Jill Schultz, Kathy Miller, Julie Kolosinski, Sandy Fortuna is on the board, and Mr. Walmsley sits with us as well. We also have Sue Boyd, Julie Jagoda, and Rich Michaels. And we are a group of people who got together about 10 years ago to try to do things to help academic stuff that happens in our school community. And we, over the 10 years, we have given out scholarships to graduating seniors. We have given mini grants to teachers, and we have just recently started giving summer camp grants to our students. So some exciting things are happening, and we are thrilled tonight. We have 3 teachers that we are awarding mini grants to. Our first teacher is Mrs. Christy Crampton. And Christie's mini grant is for Versatiles, which are self-checking mathematics project tiles to help enhance our work that our math students do. So we are absolutely thrilled, and we wish you good luck in your project, and please let us know how it goes. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Christy, excuse me, do you want to wait up here because we'll do a picture of that?
Oh, we're going to do a picture.
Thank
you. Love pictures. Okay. Our next mini grant is being awarded this evening to Ann Durst. And Ann's mini grant is, I'm going to say this because this is a mouthful, Bebot programmable and rechargeable robots and Wondershop Dash coding robots. Mrs. Durst, thank you. Mrs. Durst is our STEM teacher, and she is always looking for exciting new things to enhance the STEM experience for our students, and we're glad to be able to help her. Our last teacher is Rhonda LeBroy. And Rhonda's mini grant is for a literacy instruction small group project. Rhonda is our teacher who works with our literacy to help our students with reading, and this is something that is going to help her keep our students on the right path, and we thank you for that. And these three are just an example of amazing teachers that we have, but teachers that want to do a little extra, and we are very, very proud, like I said, to be able to help them do that. So thank you.
What? I'm like, I know you're trying to get in, I'm trying to get out. Photobombing. Yeah, you are part of it.
Okay, our next item on our agenda is the Macomb County Literacy Ambassadors, and Ms. Staples is going to make some presentation.
You have the...
So, what I would like for the board to do is, if you guys, what we're going to do is we're going to go through celebrating our literacy ambassador. We're going to go right into our outstanding teacher of the year, but I'd love to get pictures, right, with everyone and our winner. So if you guys could, please stand up and go in front of the table so that they can all shake your hands and we can get pictures and they can get awarded their certificates.
Dressed a little fancy.
So through a partnership with our 21 Macomb County districts select one person that truly embodies the passion of enhancing literacy for our students. And we cannot pick a better candidate than, of course, Autumn Walters. She is currently our Title I teacher, intervention specialist. Her passion and drive for literacy is just impeccable, and what she's doing with kids is truly amazing. She has unwavering determination for student success, and for all of those reasons, Ms. Walters, congratulations for being our literacy ambassador. Sure. How is this gonna work? I think what I need is for you guys to move over here and not be, yep, front and friends over there. Okay. It's great. Congratulations. Oh, yep. It's upside down and went up. Yay, all right. Congratulations. She's doing what? Thank you. We have amazing teachers here in Richmond Community Schools. There is a saying that I'd love to share, which is a great teacher can change things, but a good teacher can change things, but a great teacher can change everything. And for that reason, we have our 3 principals that are also going to be coming up and sharing a little bit something special about our 2023 Outstanding Teachers of the Year. So first up is going to be Miss Manguni.
Good evening. For those of you in the audience that don't know me, I'm Mrs. Manguni, the principal at Willa Lee Elementary, and I'm here to acknowledge and congratulate the elementary's teacher of the year, Nicole George. Unfortunately, Nicole cannot be here, but it's not going to stop us from recognizing her tonight. Anyone that knows Mrs. George can tell you that she has a very, very large impact with her very calm demeanor. Mrs. George does such an outstanding job focusing on her students' achievements. It's always in the forefront of all that she does. Mrs. George always ensures that each of her students' needs are met, not only academically, but emotionally as well. If you walk into Mrs. George's classroom, it kind of looks like 4 mini classrooms are going on all at once, and that's because she has so much tailored learning going on. Mrs. George never hesitates to step into leadership roles as well. She's the chair for our math committee, and she also holds the chair for our English language learners in the district. No matter what kind of obstacles Mrs. George comes across, she deals with them with poise, professionalism, and most importantly, with a huge determination to give her students the very best learning experience. So congratulations to Mrs. George. Thank you for your leadership, for your students, for our community, and for the teaching profession.
Celebrating our Outstanding Teacher of the Year for middle school is Principal Jennifer Morella.
Good evening. I am so pleased to honor Ms. Kathy Campo as the Richmond Middle School Outstanding Teacher of the Year. In the short time I've known Ms. Campo, I've learned that not only is she a team player and willing to help when needed, but she's an outstanding teacher who offers instruction in a manner that keeps her students interested and excited to learn. Her lessons are engaging and promote inquiry, and students enjoy being in her classes. Ms. Campo is innovative and creative and extremely passionate about computer science. Her positive growth mindset supports her students in believing that anyone can do anything. Ms. Campo is described by her students as positive, helpful, and an all-around kind person. She relates to her students and understands them, and she is bubbly and lights up the room with her smile. Ms. Campo doesn't only teach her students, she spearheads initiatives like the LEGO robotics team and the esports teams. She presents at professional conferences such as McCool and MAMSI. And she has consulted with the MISD and provided training to teachers throughout the county, just to name a few things that Ms. Campo has accomplished. And on a personal note, Kathy has even offered to help me learn an entirely new platform in a very short amount of time, and is very patient when I have questions. So Ms. Campo will represent Richmond Middle School and Richmond Community Schools very, very well as our Outstanding Teacher of the Year for middle school.
Just right here. Perfect spot.
Great, thank you. Right. And for our Outstanding Teacher of the Year, presenting is Miss Zabo.
As a teacher, Leah sees the importance of engaging the community in the classroom and school. In the classroom, Leah incorporates topics and issues that are happening in the world around us and allows students to bring them to life through their artwork. While Leah is working and teaching artistic skills in her classroom, she empowers the students to explore topics that are personal to them when executing assignments. Students feel comfortable expressing themselves and communicate their thoughts and feelings with the community through their final works. As a member of the local art community, Leah constantly looks for ways to celebrate art and the skills of her students. She actively promotes their artistic works and registers them for art competitions at the local, state, and national level. In doing so, she shares her passion for the subject matter, as well as provides students an outlet to connect and engage them with the art community around them. While this is how myself and many of her colleagues would describe her, the student's statement when asked to speak on Ms. Guzik's behalf is the most powerful. As one student stated, Ms. Guzik has guided me and taught me how to become a better drawer. I remember last year when I joined her basic design class. I was super self-conscious of my drawings and I was nervous to show my artwork because it was not ordinary and was different. She made me feel good about my artwork and she made me feel confident. One thing that also makes me very comfortable with her is that she makes it aware that her classroom is a safe space for LGBTQ students, which I think is important that students know they can feel safe with her. As days go by, I'm still learning new things that are helpful and very educational. She's one of the many teachers that I can talk to and come to when I have a problem. It makes me really happy that she was graded Teacher of the Year because she really does deserve it. So thank you, Leah, for creating a welcoming, safe, and artistically enriching classroom for our students.
Thank you. Congratulations. You got it. Wow, great. Thank you. All right.
Before you start, I just want to say it was a pleasure a couple weeks ago acknowledging and recognizing each of these teachers. I will say this, they in their own way echo, as Mrs. Staples said, the outstanding teachers that we have, and it is a great reflection on our district. They will be competing at the county level. The dinner for the Teacher of the Year is towards the end of April.
April 20th at 6 o'clock.
April 20th at 6 o'clock. So we look forward to that, and I wish them the best. So thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have our student advocate, student supports presentation. So I'm going to ask Ms. Maycar and Ms. Retman up here. So I'm going to be introducing Ms. Maycar. Ms. Maycar is our Director of Student Support Services here in our district. And she kind of helps oversee the student supports in our district from preschool all the way through 12th grade. So I'm going to leave it on over to you.
Okay. All right. I have the pleasure of introducing Ms. Adriana Retman, who is an experienced and well-liked staff member now in Richmond. You can flip the first slide.
Oh, you?
Or do I do this?
Zero.
Enter. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Great, thanks. So I want to first off explain what a student advocate does. Ms. Retman provides an additional layer of academic and behavioral support from kindergarten through 12th grade. She works with students towards their academic goals, promotes positive school culture, and assists in the implementation of positive behavior intervention systems, PBIS, which is in all three of our buildings, and is, posted around the buildings as well. So I'm going to let Ms. Retman kind of explain a little more about what she does.
Hello, everybody. It's nice to meet you all and be here with you.
Super faint. See that? Super faint. There you go.
All right, so I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about the monthly character themes that I did not come up with these, but our wonderful administrators at each of the buildings came up with at the beginning of the year. So these are some of the things of the things that the school has kind of acknowledged and that they're going to commit to working with students on while they're there in the classroom, and then as well as when I come in, I can come in and kind of address these as well within maybe as some activities that I might do with the students within the classroom as well. So and you can see that there are a variety of ones. Some that, for instance, like at the high school, we have some teamwork and collaboration that I work with the kids, and they do that consistently in the classroom. At Lee, we work on forgiveness and gratitude. And then, of course, we have at the middle school, we also did some positive self-esteem, study skills, and gratitude, and some conflict resolution. So these are things that will be set and those students will be kind of going through and taught by their classroom teachers, as well as me possibly coming into the classroom, which I have done, which I will be speaking them, as well as some of the things that I've done with our students so far. Let's see here. All right, so our monthly character theme activity. So some of the things that I've done, and I'll start with the elementary level, with the K through the 4th graders, I was able to do a gratitude lesson with them. I read them a story. I kind of let them kind of do whatever they wanted and sit where they wanted, make it different, make it comfortable for them. And we had a nice discussion about Mina and the gratitude jar. The kids then were able to talk about things that they were grateful for in their life, just to kind of think about the little things like Mina was in the story. And then I gave them graffiti paper, and they were able to write and draw all over it the way they wanted. And then they were able to put a little piece of paper in a gratitude jar that I gave to each classroom. That was for the kindergartners and 4th graders. And then the teachers at that point would then be able to kind of go through those over the coming days and kind of read how the kids are, what things that they're grateful for. Most kids are saying things like their family and their friends, their house. It was really great to see some of the kids get really excited about their drawings, because I was very excited to see them get very creative with how they expressed what they were thankful for. So that was something we did at the elementary, and every elementary student was able to participate.
Some of the kids went home too and made their own jars at home as well, which is great.
Yeah, they did talk about they wanted to do that at home, which of course I encourage, because it's always good to be thankful. Let's see here. Next one. At the middle school, at the 5th and 6th grade level, and within the social studies classes, I went in and I did an activity that's more of a team builder and to provide support for each other. So we kind of stood in a corner, and then each student selected a classmate within their classroom, and they wanted to say something. I asked them to say something positive about that student, so they can kind of start that process of just being thankful for the people that are around them and say something positive. And then they took a yarn and they would throw it and cross it at them while holding one end. And then what we did at the end, by the time we were all done, we made a spider web. And of course the kids talked about that and how exciting it was to see that creation, because I didn't tell them we were going to do that. And then we kind of discussed what happens when people don't necessarily are supportive of each other, and then what happens when everybody doesn't do their part. And I would have kids drop parts of their spider web, and then you would see the spider web fall, and they could see that it wasn't as strong. So we would talk about that, and of course the importance of making those connections with others in the classroom. So, and then each one of them got to have a little piece of the spider web as a little nice reminder to be thoughtful and to be able to say some positive things and be thankful for the people. So they all took a little piece of that spider web home with them. That was in the 5th and 6th grade. Let's see, in the older kids, with the 7th and 8th graders, we participated in the common denominator activity. So in case, just as a reminder for us math people, the common denominator, I asked them and they knew that that meant that it was, the number on the bottom was the same. So that brought us into discussion of, I was going to ask them to look for something they had in common with 2 or 3 different people that they were put in a group with randomly. And before we did that, we discussed communication, collaboration, and critical thinking, some very important skills that we want all of our students to be able to do when they graduate from Richmond. And then they use those skills and they discussed with each other, they found a common denominator, something they have in common, and then I asked them to use their critical thinking skills to come up with a creative logo to represent their common denominator. And so they came up with some creative things. I tried to tell them that it wasn't a picture, it was a logo, so it kind of took it to the next level. So they were able to really kind of get creative with each other, and every student was engaged. There wasn't really any place where I went where I didn't have a kid that really seemed to be really a part of that process and that activity. Let's see, at the 7th and 8th graders, I also did another activity with them. Since that I had done that one, the common denominator, we are looking to improve and obviously school culture and school climate. So we wanted to kind of get kids to start thinking about how they treat each other, to be respectful, and what happens when you might feel like you're excluded. I can't think that anybody would ever want a child to come into one of our schools thinking they're not accepted and that they don't belong. So we were trying to look at how the effects of inclusion and what what that might feel like to a student that doesn't have students coming up to them and saying hi. So you can see like the label, they actually did have a label on their head. The kids are all engaged. I didn't have one student that didn't participate when they were in the classroom. They just wanted to see what it was like. So some of them said, say hi, pat me on the back, and then they went through that, and we kind of discussed what it felt like afterwards. You know, for the kids that had the positive ones, they said pretty good. Then there was a couple of kids that had the turn away from me label, and we talked about what that felt to them. And they really understood that it doesn't feel good to have someone maybe not include you. We just talked about what might be things that we could do to kind of make sure that everybody felt like they belonged in the school when they come to school. So that was a short 20-minute activity that we did with 7th and 8th graders to talk about inclusion and exclusion and that. At the high school level, we also did the common denominator lesson. So just as a review, we talked about our 3 skills of the communication, collaboration, and critical thinking with our high school kiddos. And then we did the common denominator discussion with the critical thinking, creating a logo as well. So that one took a little longer because I spent more time with them in the front part of talking about the 3 skills that we want them to be able to do as a graduate. So that one took a little longer than at the middle school, but that was a pretty good, lengthy, all students were engaged in creating great logos as well at the high school level. Then we had our activity where we were looking at really trying to encourage and promote our school culture and school climate, making it a positive place. So what we did is we did an activity that was able to show students how they are unique and different from each other. So we had some statements that I would say we briefly talked about these assumptions that people might make or stereotypes of people that might make about people that would be in groups. And the kids would talk about, not really talk about it, but they would see some of the groups that I had on the board, like the jocks and the cheerleaders, and they just kind of said, well, what does that mean? So people make assumptions, and we can make stereotypes. So we wanted to kind of go through that process and make them feel like they could be open and honest. And we also talked about how we are trying to encourage a positive school culture so people feel accepted and a sense of belonging. And then many students reported even that it was a good, what I had one student said made me feel more honest and open with other people, or it was an activity that helped us bring us closer and show that we aren't as different as we think. So that was one of the activities that we did, but it's just, obviously we want all children to feel like they belong when they come into Richmond schools, that they feel accepted for who they are, whether they're different or their uniqueness is celebrated is what we want to do, because every student matters and every student should feel valued when they walk in. And then the last piece is something I wanted to see talk about.
Not only is Adriana doing whole group lessons, but she's also utilizing restorative practices to assist and repair relationships with students between each other. She actually has students seeking her out to help her have her help with facilitating relationships between each other that need assistance and need repair. She provides individual support for academics by looking at behaviors, attendance, and perhaps even social situations that might be interfering with performance. Her focus is in building relationships in each building among the kids. So as you saw, a lot of the activities were relationship building activities between the children. She helps make connections with new Richmond students. So as the kids are coming into Richmond, Adriana has been providing goodie bags for the kids and giving them her contact information, helping introduce those new students to other kids in the building. So she's been a really great liaison for those new students coming into our buildings. She participates in child study team meetings, so she has a lot of interesting ideas and ways to help kids connect and do well in school. She's also been participating in our district student support meetings, again looking at academics, behavior, and attendance, which has been a focus in our district meetings.
Yes. And so recently also I wanted to discuss the Macomb Diversity Summit that we just recently went to. As you guys probably know, we're pretty large county. 21 school districts went to the MISD with over 400 students that were there. And so Richmond had about 10 high school kids and 5 middle school kids that were selected that wanted to kind of be able to bring back some discussions about race relations and cultural that are relevant today. So we had them in breakout sessions. They got to choose which breakout session they wanted to be a part of. And then they were able to form a diversity action kind of team here at the high school that we started to have those discussions about an action plan and how we'd like to see our school move forward in making sure that we are all accepted and belong here and kind of accept and celebrate diversity within Richmond. So that was the last piece that I did with them. Most recently, that was just last month.
Any questions at all about how our student assistance, our student advocate program is going?
I actually have some questions. So when you do these activities, I understand that they're picked out for you already in terms of what types of activities to do with each of the grade levels. But who picks the questions that you are asking when you are doing the get to know each other exercises?
Thanks for questions.
I mean, is there a guidance? Is there some sort of something that controls where to get these questions from based on their age and
We don't have a
whether
set
it's age-appropriate
curriculum.
questions?
We don't have any set curriculum that we're getting these lessons from, but I do know that we have a process to review the lessons before that they are done at each of the building levels. So they first go through Ms. Makar, then they go through each of the building principals.
So there really isn't a comparing guidance to the questions?
There's no set curriculum.
And
I would say the professional judgment of the individuals, just as we do with the classroom teacher. It's the team looks at whatever the activity that they're trying to accomplish, the end goal, and looks at, okay, how is it best to reach that, looking at various activities, and then that team's professional judgment is what is determined how the activity is going to roll out. So we aren't following a manual or some script that like a published or third-party producer has put out there.
And this is, she's coming into, is it the social studies classes that you're coming in and doing this on? Taking up
I
the
talked
social
with
studies?
administrators to try to figure out what would be the best approach to which class based on who I'm going to be working with. So middle school, it happened to be the social studies classes because I knew that it was just one of those classes I would definitely be able to be in front of every student, so they would be a part of that.
It's something that's looked at as a scheduling point of view because you can't always pull from the same, core class. So they try to mix it up.
And this isn't part of the curriculum for courses, classes, it's not going towards anything. It's just something that we're bringing in to the students to do.
Well, it's part of the district school improvement plan. We have two facets on that school improvement plan. You have an academic and you have a behavior, social, emotional, whatever. In that academic, we decide the cores, we need to get our scores to a certain level. And we use M-STEP and NWA and other things for that. On the flip side, we're looking at behavior, we're looking at attendance, we're looking at acceptance, we're looking at other things that we have seen patterns in our schools that there is a concern. And so from that, we have a team that meets once a month on the academic, which is primarily a representative, the principal and representatives from the core, and the dean and representatives for the attendance and behavior, and what's the third, I'm forgetting it, the third facet.
Student support.
Student support, excuse me. So they meet once a month, and so in that meetings, we've been looking at data. How can we reduce attendance? Elementary had a huge push, I know they all have, but they have posted up which class is going to have the best attendance. And so it's a focus on changing a pattern that's affecting academics. And so in that, that's where this position, just as we put Title I on the academic side, we have this position on the flip side to help us work with those other variables that are affecting our achievement.
And when you say this position, you're talking about the student advocate
the student
that we
advocate.
as a board decided that we needed to have, correct?
Yeah,
That's what you're talking about.
Correct, and the student advocate position evolved because of the shortages of counselors out there, trying to find someone who has that I don't want to say counseling mindset, but understanding the child from the perspective of, we have to look at these other factors if we're going to get the academics up. And being able to build relationships is the first thing that we tell our teachers. Forget the teaching math and reading the first week of school. Build your relationships with your classes, because if you invest on the front end, your year will go a lot better in the classroom on the back end. So part of Mrs. Rettman's position was, it was K-12, looking at how can she integrate with what each building's plan is through those character traits that we've already established and have been doing really for years. It's just now we're putting some more supports to support that end of the school improvement plan, rather than just the traditional, a couple weeks ago, Mrs. Rettman was the one that I recognized regarding if she hadn't looked at an attendance, hadn't looked at grades dropping, we would have had a family that was impacted by being homeless almost. So it's just another piece that we can catch kids before they fall. And that's what I guess.
And we did it, and you were on the board when we voted for it. We did this because we wanted, if I'm saying this to everyone, things were already happening, that we just wanted to enhance it and make it, I hate to say make it better, because that would mean that it wasn't good, but that's not what I'm trying to say. But it's just we now have someone to, an added piece to it, yes.
To make it stronger.
Yes.
Like, I know that part of this, if I'm not mistaken, is part of our PBIS, which is our positive behavior program, which we have in each of our buildings. I know I was responsible.
And have for a very long time.
Since I was here, we started it. And the idea is we, as a school, looked at, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm going in the wrong place here, we looked at what did we need to change in our building.
Yes.
What's happening? These are all building related. What are we seeing within our students, and how can we change that? And that's how when we developed our PBIS, that's where we picked those goals. So Candace, when you asked about the topics, some of them stem from that PBIS plan that we see with our students, that we need to improve what's happening in the building. And that's just another piece of what's going on in that education process.
Are you getting all positive feedback from the students? I mean, is there something coming full circle back from them, whether that maybe affected them negatively versus positively ever? I mean, some of the personal questions that you're...
I mean, I've had positive, and I mean, I'm going to be honest, there's some kids that are they were a little uncomfortable, but at the very beginning of the activity, I said if anybody felt uncomfortable at any point, they did not have to respond or acknowledge the statement. I said that multiple times. I know I even observed one of them before, and it is something I wanted to make sure that they knew that they were not being forced. Nobody was forcing them. Nobody was going to make them participate in a way that they weren't comfortable. So if they did not feel comfortable, they just stood still, and they didn't acknowledge any statement of any kind.
I can tell, I'd like to say also that I happened to be in the middle school several mornings last week, and there were at least 3 kids that came by looking for Ms. Rettman, just to talk, just needed someone to reach out to, which was wonderful. Really very touching that she has built that kind of relationship with them, that they felt able to come to her.
I've been here a short period of time. I've been here only since November, and that's one of my biggest goals, is to make those connections with the kids, because not every kid has we all know that every kid has different needs, and they have unique experiences, and my job is to kind of, I feel like, come in and try to help meet those needs wherever I can, and of course, provide supports wherever we can. And so some of these kids need to feel like they belong here, and I want to make sure that they do feel that way. So, and they feel accepted, and I think everybody here would want that, obviously. I think we all want them to feel like every student that comes into these doors feels that they belong and feels a positive experience. So we really want to work on making sure that our school culture and climate reflects that. And this is just another piece. And my job in interventions with students individually, it gives me a great opportunity to meet them and connect with them. And I have a lot of kids that do reach out because they would just come to see me at the middle school, and that's continuing here at the high school as well. As I'm not excluding anybody, and I'm open door kind of policy.
So would you say, do you do like one activity a month in each building? Or I'm just kind of getting an idea of how that works.
What was the plan? Because I just want to make sure, with the recent retirement that we have, I have recently reassigned Mrs. Ruttman to the high school to fill the void there.
Right.
So her role is kind of on pause until we get a permanent replacement. But, so what was the plan?
I think the plan was about monthly, every other month, based on kind of what the character themes were within the building. I mean, obviously with schedules change, we all know with snow days and, things that happen where I had moving things around. And it does, my first initial lesson that I have been in front of every student in this district, K-12. So that was the goal I know originally, and that's what I was going to continue to do as much as possible. And that's what I was in the middle of doing when I had a discussion with Mr. Walmsley.
And each presentation is about an hour?
No, it's usually I try to keep it around 20 to 30 minutes. One time I did go a little longer because I was
I'm just
first time
curious.
meeting them, so I kind of sometimes with the high school kids I gave them a little bit more time to try to kind of explain where I was coming from and what we were doing.
Thank you.
And this data that comes out of it, or, do you take that information anywhere? Do you record that?
There is no recording of any lesson, and there is no data that is collected from any of these lessons other than hearing feedback from students. What we do with that feedback is absolutely nothing. We say, yay, nay, what can we do to help change these lessons in the future? Just like any other feedback of an instructor in this district, they would take feedback of how it went and kind of revamp their lesson to make sure it was more successful than before. So there's no data collection, there's no small group created from any kind of data.
I would say the data is our attendance data becoming better, our discipline data reducing, and students, we do a survey that goes out to all the students, and I know the middle school, I'm assuming the other buildings have done it at staff. There's a survey yearly, usually through the school improvement, you have to have a survey that people feel more connected to the school. Because that's where any program that we do is going to show the impact, are we seeing it in why we established the resource. But there's no, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's no, when Mrs. Ruttman goes into a room, there's not a pre-test, a post-test, we take the scores and up. None of that exists. It's about building a conversation with kids and staff. And my hope as a superintendent is that sparks the interest, not only in the classroom teacher, but kids to be able to seek out her when they have a concern. And they know someone can connect to them. That's my goal for the program. Not that, we have a lot of kids that love Mrs. Crampton, love Mrs. Schlager. They have all these teachers that they love. But there are some kids who just may not feel connected. And maybe it's the dean of students because they're a regular frequent flyer in their office that they feel connected to. Or maybe it's the counselor. But Mr. Ruttman might be another person that we can make sure everybody has someone they can go to should they need that extra set of hands. That's my goal, superintendent. I don't know if I spoke for yours.
And Renee, are you familiar with the exercises that she is doing? Is it all coming through your hands?
There is a process to be able to review these lessons, and I run district improvement for both academic and student supports.
Any other questions from the board?
I don't have a question, but I think this is really exciting. I've been talking about needing support for mental health for a long time in this district, and this is really awesome to see. I've been talking about needing more counselors to do more than scheduling. Nothing against the counselors that we have. I know that they're busy, but to do more stuff like this, it helps the kids their education in every way. So thank you.
Absolutely. It benefits everyone.
Yeah.
Students and staff and the whole community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Shifting gears, we're going to be discussing our instructional coach position. So just like we have supports for academic, we have supports for student sports, right? So I'm going to invite Ms. Jessica Schlehuber up to co-present. This is the first time we've had an instructional coach in our district. And Ms. Schlehuber has done just an incredible job of embracing this role, making connections with teachers, and really helping grow this to what all the possibilities. And I hope that we capture some of the great things that we're doing here. So an instructional coach is an educational leader. Their role is to work to help the professional development of teachers. This is not something that teachers are forced into. It is something that they voluntarily sign up for. I would like to have assistance or help with this. I'm looking for this. Just being able to have that adult peer to be able to bounce ideas off of, help design lessons, help being able to look and analyze data to create small groups, all of these things, because we know that right now we have on our calendar 5 professional development days, and we know that that's just not enough, right? And so how can we build in a process and structure to where teachers always have somebody to be able to help assist with whatever their own professional goals are as a leader, So we have broken up our coaching menu into 3 broad areas: classroom management, curriculum implementation, meaning any kind of new curriculum that we adopt, such as Amplify, Haggerty. Some teachers might need some help trying to understand the lessons or the scope and sequence. So we have a resource available to help that implementation go well, as well as instructional strategies. We have teachers that really want to dive into more of Kagan structures and those kind of instructional practices, high-yielding instructional practices such as questioning techniques, such as small group instruction. So Jessica is definitely a layer of support for all teachers. And we're going to dive into a little bit of each of those 3 components. Oh, it is? Okay.
I have all that notes on.
Ms. Schlehuber.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for having me this evening and allowing me to share with you the many elements of what an instructional coach and learning loss specialist is and the impacts this position is having in our district. For those that don't know me, I am Jessica Schlehuber. Everyone really just calls me Jess, or Mrs. Schlehuber. I have 3 children who attend Richmond schools, and I've worked in the district now for 4 years. Before starting this new role, I was the ELA teacher at the middle school for 3, and prior to that, about 10 years at the elementary level. So initially, when I applied to this position, the only concern I had was truly missing being in the classroom with students. But that quickly diminished just weeks after starting the role, because the need and the feedback I received from teachers and administrators, it just really gave me a new purpose. As an instructional coach, I enjoy coming alongside, supporting, encouraging, and collaborating best practices and resources to use in the classroom. So to start, I know this is a little hard to read up here, so I'll try to explain. It kind of goes over the classroom management piece. All coaching aligns with district initiatives and district improvement goals. Renee mentioned 3. Here's a snapshot of each one. To begin, classroom management. It is essential for educators to have strong classroom management skills in order for learning to take place in their classroom. Kagan is a district-wide initiative this school year. It has also been a big part of both building and teacher goals. I wasn't sure, for part of our TV at the beginning of the school year, almost all teachers attended 2 days of Kagan. So the ones that were here, so implementing Kagan in all the classrooms has definitely positively impacted management, while also creating a culture for learning that motivates and encourages relationship building with and among peers. This menu choice also encompassed the importance of communicating behavior expectations in the classroom and creating an environment that meets the needs of all learners. Support with lesson planning and plan book and Schoology, instructional outcomes, procedures, and routines were also built into this option.
And what's another layer to this, of course, we have to recognize that we have some staff that are new to joining us throughout the year. So if you think about the professional development that took place in the beginning of the year, Jessica is kind of an onboarding kind of liaison to be able to, keep them, to be able to show them Kagan strategies if they weren't available for the training at the beginning of the year. So it's another layer of professional development that we're going to be able so that everybody can learn these best practices.
The next menu choice, the curriculum implementation and onboarding menu choice, provided support with content, curriculum, and student achievement results and data. This school year, we rolled out a new science curriculum across the district, Amplify and Inspire. We all know implementation of a new curriculum is exciting. However, as with anything that is new, there's uncertainty and kinks along the way, especially if you weren't here for PD. My goal is to partner with teachers and provide them with the support and resources needed to transform that uncertainty with empowerment so they are confident teaching the new curriculum to their students and engaged and exciting in planning and the learning that's taking place in their classrooms. Within this option, I also address standards, design assessments, and have conversations regarding what worked and what can be tweaked in the classroom. The third menu choice, instructional strategies. In Richmond, our mission statement reads, guaranteed learning for all students is our focus. Instructional coaching is aligned with the vision and mission of Richmond Community Schools. Kagan methods are key for team building, classroom management, for mastery, higher level thinking, and promote social skills for all learners. The structures are practical, hands-on, and grounded in research, and there are over 200 to choose from. So I think about those new teachers that come in and they didn't have the PD. I mean, the book is so thick. So we start with 2 or 3 or 4, 1 or 2 a week, and then we focus on it and get the students familiar with it. And then the teachers are learning those structures, and then the kids are just used to them because they're doing them in all the classrooms across the district. So it's something different. In addition to meeting with teachers individually, I made it a goal, just because of the new teachers, I started a coach's corner. And I was really strong in getting a lot more done before Christmas, and then there's been a lot of changes. So the coach's corner I put in teacher lounges, and it was just ready to go Kagan instructors they could grab. So math, pretty simple. I put together a packet with some structure. They could come in and grab it just to try it. I also created a shared folder with ready-to-go Kagan lessons and resources that teachers can access as needed for their classrooms. And these are teachers that are working with me. So they have access to those. Additionally, I've been able to meet with the district-wide curriculum team monthly, have bi-weekly meetings with Renee, and participate and contribute to professional development throughout the district. Professional development has been pivotal in team building and collaboration amongst staff, while also incorporating and implementing new strategies and programs. Some, to name just a couple, Progress Learning, MTSS, and Power School. And by Power School, we had quite a few changes at the elementary level, just going live with the parent portal and then putting formative and summative assessments in. So it's all good things, but it's changes, and change is hard, but it's all positive. So I just try to be available.
So this is something that we are strategically doing each year. The first round of coaching is based on our brand new teachers. So it can be brand new to Richmond or brand new, this is their first time teaching, good luck, but at least they have, support. And so our first round is, each cycle is around 6 weeks. Teachers choose to sign up through a survey that Ms. Schlager sends out, and they choose to sign up and what one of the 3 areas they would like to work on. So the first coaching round is targeted for new teachers to be able to help them with any kind of onboarding that they might need, questions regarding Power School, our standards, looking at Kagan. So some of these district-wide initiatives, there is a layer of support intentionally for brand new teachers.
And I kind of, at the beginning with all the new teachers, I sent an email and I did send a menu choice, but then I also went into the buildings and kind of just was like, I'm going to pop in, I'll be around, I'm all just in person want to see a face, so they see my face, so they know, and then just start building a relationship. So as you can see, 22 teachers fit the criteria at the beginning, and I made and built relationships with all of them. So it's been pretty amazing. And then the second coaching cycle, an interest survey was sent out, K-12. So I had reached out to administration and had them send out the survey, and a total of 46 teachers completed it. I couldn't believe it. 20 teachers wanted Kagan support and 25 expressed wanted curriculum resource support. In addition to the survey results, I also continued working with new teachers, so a lot of flexibility, and also onboarding new teachers that were coming in December and January. I also built relationships with the administration team and met and tried to meet to review building goals and expectations. So yeah, it's all good though.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the impact. So I know Ms. Schlaber kind of touched on this. It is so tough making the decision to leave the classroom, and one of the things that you look at is the impact that you can have as a leader in education. 81.2% of teachers reported that students are developing positive social skills after the coaching cycle, deliberate classroom management strategies, whether it be about the way that the classroom is literally set up with desks, using Kagan cooperative learning strategies so that there's positive discourse happening in the subject areas. 81.7% of teachers reported that students are more actively engaged after the coaching cycle, specifically regarding our cooperative learning strategies, and we know that engagement is directly linked to academic success. 77.2% of teachers reported that their students are enjoying doing Kagan structures. So all of those wonderful things, you can see that this is having a positive effect on our students in kind of looking at some of this data. So the impact, what does this mean? Well, 800 students, 40 teachers. That is a huge impact you can have with support, whether it be about classroom management, whether it be about building instructional strategies that research shows have high yielding effect sizes. You're talking about curriculum implementation. As Ms. Schlaber touched upon, change is difficult. And to be able to fully embrace new things, people may need some support, but you can see that 800 students, 40 teachers have been impacted so far by this position. Some feedback from teachers, I'll just leave, yeah. So some of them have said it's helped me be a better teacher, be more prepared, and better able to meet the needs of the students. Knowing I have someone in my corner wanting me to succeed and helping me do so is so comforting as a new teacher in the district. My students directly benefit from the resources my coach provides, and also the way my coach helps my confidence and attitude when I'm feeling overwhelmed. We have some feedback from our administrators, and I'll just let you guys read that. Again, just more feedback from teachers. This all goes after our post-survey that goes out after the coaching cycles. So this is not something that we just created. We created the three facets, if you will. But this is a research-based instructional strategy in order to help student achievement. This is a network through the MISD, so there is a coaching network that Jessica attends, say about monthly or so, at the ISD. They are doing book studies. I know she signed up herself for letters through MDE about early child phonics, phonemic awareness, those kind of things for early literacy. She meets with other coaches and directors from across the entire county to be able to discuss best strategies and what's working at a county level in the realm of instructional coaching. Does anybody have any questions?
I just
just have one thing to say. Where were you when I was principal? Both groups.
And Deb, you're absolutely right.
I'm serious.
This has been long overdue for our district, and trying to figure out how we can sustain this long-term has been our key. Would you just share a little tip of what you're trying to do this summer with what you sent out? Just a little teaser?
Okay, so.
I'm totally putting her on the spot, so I apologize.
So Ms. Ladyburn and I, we meet every other week, and we just bounce ideas, and we talk about how to better things and our instruction and our academics, and I think we like our meetings together. They're really great. One of the I'll say that about our meetings. But one of the things that we're talking about is creating professional development for Richmond teachers by Richmond teachers. So putting it out there, I put it out in an email that they can do a proposal if they would like to do a professional development workshop over the summer in mid-August as teachers are thinking about coming back to the classroom, so that they can choose like a catalog what workshops they would like to attend. And it's really just us learning from each other and being able to use that as a way to do various different things. I've gotten a few proposals already. I'm hoping to get more. There's ideas such as utilizing creative writing, how to form small group literacy circles, analyzing NWEA data. So there's really great things out there, and it's passion projects, things that you are just really excited about talking about, and you want to be able to share with your colleagues. So
more to come.
Yeah. So thank you to Ms. Ladyburn for all of your fantastic work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then you can switch the.
Okay, our next item up on our agenda is the varsity softball overnight extended student trip. Mr. Stewart.
So people don't know me, my name is Howard Stewart, and I have been part of Richmond School since 1968. And about 56 years, but I started really, really young. So I'd like to thank Mr. Longley for all you've done for my program, especially the brand new varsity field and the additions you made to the field. They're both really nice. The players and parents are all looking forward to it. And also, we'd really like to have you come attend the game. I think you'd really like it. It's fast-moving, well-coached. Okay, I might have got carried away. I'm here seeking approval of overnight trip, but we've been doing it for the last 40 years, so it's nothing new. We stay at Foster's Cabin, we spend Friday night and Saturday night in Gaylord. Hopefully they get to play. Last year we were there, the tornado hit today, we were before we got here. So anyways, we're hoping to play Gaylord this time, never played before. We played Gladstone, which is the team we've never seen them anywhere. 40-some years, I've never seen them that hot. Anyway, we're seeking permission, and it's a fun thing, and it's almost no cost to the players. They have to provide one meal otherwise. They stay at Foster's Cabin, we get on Foster's bus, and my thing, I just climb on the bus, and when John stops the bus, I get off. So it's pretty easy for myself and the players. And it's a good time, it's one of those things, it's a lifetime memory, and it's really for competition and for camaraderie with the team, just the team and the parents, and they really get together and enjoy that. Any questions, I think?
Howard, when are you going? Are we in school or no?
Yeah, we're in school. It's May 8th, I think it is. Am I right?
No, it's May 12th is what you have on your paperwork. So is it May 12th?
Yeah. I switched to a different place, yeah. Anyways, yes, that's what, we go leave
12th is the Friday.
We have to play at 4 o'clock in Gaylord on Friday.
Thank you.
So they missed one day of school then?
We don't miss the whole thing, but we leave early. 3:30.
It's good team building, correct?
Yes, it's just new competition, it's really a fun time. It's a lifetime, and it's really good for the kids. Get them away from Richmond, get them away from their other friends, it's just us.
Yep.
Anyone have any other questions for Mr. Stewart? Or Coach Stewart? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. We'll vote on it in 2 weeks.
Howard, we'll be voting on it in our next meeting. Okay, so we'll let, Ms. Walmsley will let you know. Or
Yep. I think they will.
Our next item on our agenda is our summer 2023 bond project presentation.
Colleen, I told you, see a lot of good things tonight.
I did. It was great. I like how all the kids talk. Me too. From the, my God, we call it the day group. I'm Colleen Copel. I'm project manager with Off Construction. We're your construction manager for the 2019 bond construction work. You know, we've done a lot so far, but we're going to finish strong this summer. We have paving. We are splitting the paving, the balance of the paving into 2 phases. We are starting June 8th and we're wrapping up August 11th. On your map here, you can see that the orange highlighted areas is going to be phase 1, and that is the traffic roundabout and the middle school paving, removal and replacement. We have a little bit of different design going on in the back of the school. We've got some new sidewalk going up and some other features being added. We have our traffic pattern for this work. We are still having traffic come in off of Forest, but we'll have some traffic control and some signs. But when they come down Forest Ave to the orange slash there across the road by the baseball field at the end of Lee Elementary, traffic will not be able to go through. They'll have to turn around and come through the Lee parking lot and go back out. We're also going to have barricades on the other side of the traffic circle as well, on the west side, so that is all contained. And then the new gate that we put in last summer is going to be closed for traffic there too. So folks are going to have to bear with us a little bit this summer. We're trying to do our best to not disrupt everything that goes on. We know there's all kinds of athletic activities and Foster Blues parking. So we noted up here too that the middle school teacher's lot, which we paved last year, will be available during phase 1 for the softball, the Richmond Blues practice. They can come down the path and still get to their field, and they'll have access. Then when we're done, roughly about July 21st with the middle school paving, we'll open that up. And then we're going to close off Buyer Street at the highlighted, the blue, like the turquoise, from there all the way out to the street. So we're going to remove and replace that. We did add the new bus lane in front of the middle school last year, so that's remaining and staying. We're going to work on that curve, the corner down at Buyer Street. We've got some improvements going on there. I'm sure everybody that's driven through here has at some time gone through the big puddle there after it rains. So we're putting in some new curves and some more drainage. We're taking care of that. We're doing a whole new entrance at 32 Mile up at the top there with concrete curb and new asphalt there as well. We are working on there's a little bit left at the high school student parking entrance. There was some alternates there to repave that. We're going to close off the high school student parking lot at the red dots, but it won't be a permanent closure. We'll be able to have dumpster service for the high school. So, and then the new exciting thing is we are adding in the yellow, we are adding some parking at the varsity baseball. We're putting in a swale for drainage and some handicap spots and some, I don't know, I think we have 11 new parking spots being added, and that's going to be really nice for people to be able to go down there.
The yellow area, the varsity baseball site work, is probably going to go on all summer long in conjunction with the other two. The contractors will be moving around back and forth between the varsity baseball parking and what they've got going on for the middle school and the road. So we spent a lot of time with Mr. Walmsley and the staff talking about camps and other things that are going on this summer. So the contract that was built into our scopes, the contractors that bid know that they have to work around what's going on at the district. We have already bid the project. We had 2 bidders. Both bidders were very competitive, and they have both worked here before, last summer or the summer before. So they're both very familiar, and they both did good work for us. What did I miss?
So a couple things. We are looking at hosting the summer camps that will come to you at the April 10th board meeting. Staples will present that offerings at Lee Elementary School that will provide a kind of self-contained area. The athletic camps will be various, either at Lee or various other locations. We'll be working on the coordination of students moving from one camp to the next throughout all of this. When the orange area is being done, that is the access to the board office, so we will more than likely be relocating some of the board staff to the middle school main office, and that will now become the temporary entrance to the board. And then for those that need access to the board office, they'll go through the middle school area and so forth. So once this project is complete, everything has been touched and done in this project.
It was a lot.
So, as Conley said, there were 2 bids. The bid packages are in your proposal. There's about a $72,000 difference between the 2. So ASI would be
They're the low qualified bidder.
and they've done work here in the past. We have no reason not to go with them. So at the next board meeting will be the contract to approve for this summer's project at $1 million.
Yep. When you're talking Buyer Street, is the little part that, are you talking about, because Buyer Street is the little street between Forest and Main. So is that considered?
This is something that we've learned in this project.
That's my question. Is it Buyer Street?
This is actually Buyer Street in front of the middle school.
The one that comes by the...
Oh, is it? And all the way up.
And all the way up.
That whole street.
Comes by the...
But it's all considered Briar Street. But the middle school address is Division.
Okay.
I mean, there's all these nuances that at some point when this was all designed and planned, I don't know why it wasn't on Briar.
So maybe it was all the way through, it was
Yeah, at
Buyer
some
Street
point.
until the schools got
So,
built.
yeah,
Okay.
So
And then-
the blue is what
Okay.
is.
It just stuck Buyer Street, just making sure. And then where it says varsity baseball site work, that says 6/8?
Yes.
To 8/11, is that what it says? So, yeah, but my question then, does that prohibit us from hosting districts, regionals, anything like that with that work?
We, in the past, when we did the elementary, when things come up like that, we worked with them and they've always accommodated us. If we, for some reason, we get to that final level. That, was the date that was established before snow days. So that may have a little bit, that may have to have a little
Okay.
adjustment.
All right, I just wondered when I saw the date.
But that was the original, was we want to start, because that project's going to take, it's got more design and development over there.
I'm hoping to push them to pay the varsity baseball with the middle school, but a lot of that will be dependent on if we have any unforeseen things in the ground, like soft ground, or if we find anything when we dig for the swale.
Okay.
So, and I'm sure they would like to get it done as soon as possible too.
Okay.
But we just kind of let it stretch between the two in case.
Okay, thank you.
Any
Any other questions?
I have a couple. That swale, there's a couple few potholes right now when you come in off of 32.
That's right here?
Yes.
That is all being redone this summer.
Yeah, but not until June?
What we do is we usually contract with the company to put cold patch in there to buy us till the summer.
Oh, okay,
that
so
would be
it'll
yes,
be,
yeah.
because it's pretty
Yeah, there's,
significant right now.
I know what ones you're talking about.
But that's always been the plan, that is
Right, I know.
but until June, yes, we'll get cold patch in there. In fact, we just had Jamie and I just had the conversation coming back from a conference today, so, for a meeting.
And then the other question that I have, especially now with the elementary increasing their student enrollment, is there room to add more parking over there? Because it kind of seems like maybe that could be a future problem if it's not already.
That would be put on either a future bond or the list of when all the bonds stuff has been paid for, the dollars that are left in the bond. And then that would come to the board to prioritize those projects. This parking lot, we did extend on the original to go out to the end here. Future paving would be going back to probably a parking lot off to the side here for a future.
But there is space.
There is space.
Yeah.
You could also use this green area here, or excuse me, this brown area. We would have to relocate what's there though, the shop, but. Yeah, shop, so. Am I correct in saying the cost when you do parking lots is not what you see on the top, it's what you see underground, all the retentions?
Yeah, under Lee Elementary and behind the new addition at the gym, there's huge underground tank storage for the runoff from the parking lot, and it's held there until it cycles itself out into the storm. So we looked at it with the architects and the engineers, and we could not get away with not having the swale. So that little swale to the right of the yellow lot is not that deep, but it will collect water. And if you have like a 50-year storm or a 100-year storm, it'll rise and then it'll spill over into the outlet that it'll go through. But I should also mention then too that along that parking, the new parking in the yellow area, we have bollards along there so nobody can drive through.
So when we looked at adding that project, that was the cost factor, is how much can we add before we had to get to a point where we had to put the underground stuff. And so we went as big as we could without getting that. And that is I never realized how big of a cost that is when you're doing parking lots, but it's a significant impact.
Anybody else? Questions of them?
Thank you very much. Thanks for being patient with us tonight.
I like your shoes.
Those are fancy.
Okay, our next item on our agenda is the Early Learning Childhood Center Outdoor Classroom Presentation.
Am I turning it back over to you?
Yeah, please, thank you. So, the state invested $700 million in a child care stabilization grant. And thanks to Ms. Shad, who put in for it, we were able to be one of the districts that were recipients of this grant. So, that's why we're the dream team. You get the money, I like to spend. So this is Mr. Gibson, who is our Director of Early Childhood Learning Center, and we're outlining some of our plans to be able to spend and improve our current courtyard for our littlest learners here at Lee Elementary.
Good evening. I'm just here tonight to talk about exactly what you're looking at here is the courtyard that's in between our preschool and our 300 wing. The 300 wing houses our first grade, our special education resource rooms, and our Title I classrooms. So it's the area that's in between our preschool and that wing there. This is the area that you're looking at, kind of that top left picture there. That is what it looks like right now. It's just kind of just an empty space. There's a couple tables out there. The teachers do utilize it kind of when the weather's nicer.
They do their preschool carnival at the end of the year, and they set up their own little booths and things, but we're looking for a long-term, stable, really joyful place for our kids to explore and learn.
Yeah, so right now they use it for class activities, getting the students outside for some fresh air. So this past summer, we also used it for our summer social, something new we started, as I talked about at a previous board meeting. You can see those pictures there as well. These pictures kind of represent kind of what would be the setup if we were to have an event out there. There's some sitting space on the ground if it's a nice day, but otherwise families have to kind of stand or lean against the building and don't have a lot of areas where they can kind of engage with each other and sit down and talk. This picture here is the picture that's it's an aerial view. So as you see door 33 there, that is a door that leads out of the hallway across from the media center. So if you're walking down that hallway, you look to your left, that is the picture of that kind of empty space you would see. On the right, we would have a water table and sand area. So as you walk out that door, we actually put in a new sidewalk, sorry. And that new sidewalk would take you all the way across and take you by some of our sensory materials that we plan on purchasing, and including a gazebo. So if you kind of walk with me, I'll kind of give you a vision. So as you walk out door 33, you look to your right and you'll see that sand and water table area. And I've looked at a water table as a 3-tiered table that could fit up to 20 students around it so that they could do an activity with their teacher or maybe do some water lessons or something fun that the teachers could just take them outside on a nice day and do something fun with a water table. Obviously, all kids like to play in sand. I see it in the classroom. It's not necessarily sand, it's more like rice and things like that. But this would be an area where they can go and play with a sand table as well. And I'll show you some pictures of what this will look like.
And keep in mind too that exploratory learning is part of the preschool creative curriculum that we utilize. So it's very thoughtful, intentional play that kids get to learn about their environments.
And as you walk out again to your left, you're also going to see art and music area. So we could put some easels out there. So maybe a teacher would like to go outside and have 4 or 5 easels set up where they can do art outside on a nice day. Outdoor approved, as well as some music instruments that are outdoor approved as well. So like a wooden xylophone, some drums, some nice things that they could kind of utilize outside just to get that musical part of the education. As you keep walking, you'll hit that tree that you saw that's in the middle of the courtyard. We have a round picnic table that would actually go around the radius of that tree. So I've looked at some options there, so you can have a nice little sitting area and some shade. During the summer social, it was pretty warm, so you'll see there's some shaded areas included in this drawing as we go forward. As you look above that, there's some wood stepping stumps. So we can buy some stumps, and the students can kind of jump from stump to stump and just have that little activity area where they could kind of get some energy out. There's also hollowed out logs that they manufacture that kids could crawl through. So just kind of a nice area where we also have some benches that were strategically placed where the little kiddos can sit out and enjoy the nice weather. As you continue, you'll see the gazebo. That area is where it's kind of our main attraction that we'll get to, but it's a nice gazebo that we're looking at from a local company. So it's something where we have some shade, again, somewhere for the kids to go and sit under, almost like a little extra classroom. Even on a rainy day, teachers could take them outside and maybe talk about, where the rain comes from. Just make it an educational experience for them. On a nice day, you might see them under there reading a book in the shade with their classmates. It's big enough for to fit whole classrooms under it, if not more. As you keep walking, you'll eventually make your way to the other side. As you go, I think a nice big area there would be for picnic tables. This is an area, so for our summer social, we had a great turnout, but not a lot of sitting space for families. If you're talking about parent engagement and parents getting to know each other, how amazing would it be if they could sit down at 5 or 6 tables and just talk and see who they are and meet each other and get that kind of family engagement that we're kind of looking for in our school district. So that's just kind of an outline, an aerial view, which is to scale-ish.
And you made the scale too, so it's ish.
Heck yeah.
It's good though.
And some help, yes. This is a picture of the gazebo. This is actually made by a local company, Backyard Living Company. They're local here in Richmond, so it kind of brings out that local feeling to it to support local businesses. So this is kind of what that would look like and what we'd be looking for. It's an open area where teachers could go under there with the students. There could be seating. I envision having parents under there with tables chatting with each other and just whole classroom lessons that could be used under this.
PTO meetings.
PTO meetings on a nice day, yes. And then we get to the materials themselves. So on the bottom right, you'll see the 3-tiered water table that we were looking at. Again, that would fit 20 preschool students around that, where the teacher could kind of demonstrate some water activities with them. We have the sand table, as you see there, and maybe even a climbing area for the kids just to kind of get some of that energy out, work on those motor skills. And then you have the stumps that I was talking about, just some fun play areas for them that could be positioned to where they could just do some stump-to-stump jumping. And we'd also have some wooden benches, as you see there. This is kind of designed for preschoolers. That would be kind of positioned over in that area where they could sit down, maybe read a book. Just a little quiet area for them, or it could be an energetic area with preschoolers. You also have the hollowed-out manufactured log. I think is a pretty neat touch. We could position that where kids could crawl through it and just have some fun there. You'll see the tree in the bottom right. That is kind of what I'd be looking at as far as a design for a table to go around that. Utilize that space and make it a nice sitting area for students and families. And then we get to the art and music. So this is an area where we have the wooden xylophone, some drums, the art easels on the bottom right there, where we have an art easel area where whole classrooms could go outside and just maybe do an art project together. Or maybe we want to increase that family engagement again and bring parents in, so maybe they can do an art project with their child. There's lots of different possibilities with this kind of setup where parents can actually have a lot of involvement in the education in preschool. And I know things have kind of turned around since we've been from COVID and all of that. It'd be nice to have them, see these new things and be able to come in and enjoy these experiences with them. And we talked about the creative curriculum. This kind of setup ties into the 11 interest areas. So when you're talking about discovery, there'll be a lot to discover and a lot of possibilities for the teachers, our amazing staff, to put together lessons that's going to help them explore and discover new materials. We have the sand and water options. We have the music and movement. Cooking. I was looking at a mud kitchen design setup where we could put a little mud kitchen out there and they could cook outside.
Don't eat the cupcakes.
Again, this is all outdoors, so you hit that outdoors aspect. Dramatic play. How awesome would it be for our preschoolers to maybe put on a little skit for their parents underneath the giant gazebo that's out there? Just some ideas. Toys and games we could include. Again, we touched on the art, and then the library. Yes, they go to the media center all the time. Why not go from the media center when you check out your book, walk right out that hallway door out and read a book when it's really nice outside with your teacher. So there's lots of different possibilities here. And again, we get to the gazebo. This area, when you kind of tie it all in together, it's almost like an additional classroom that teachers can utilize and tie in with the curriculum that they're already using in the classroom. We have some amazing teachers. Our enrollment is growing. It's up to 122 this year. We have filled all of our GSRP rooms, and there's really no sign of that slowing down. So why not have an extra area like this that's going to attract more families? How awesome would it be to take a family for a tour, show them all your classrooms, and oh, by the way, let's head out and check out our courtyard. That's new state-of-the-art materials for our preschool program. So we think it'd be an excellent addition to our preschool program.
So is the idea that when we approve it, how quickly does everything have, cool, so how quickly are you looking
Yeah, so the cement, we'd obviously have to look into that. The gazebo, actually, talking to them, it'd be a 10-week turnaround.
Okay.
So it'd be here within 10 weeks.
So like next school year,
Yeah,
that's
the hope would be
what I meant,
that
that you're shooting for. Okay.
Yep.
That is so exciting.
The other items, we can start ordering and purchasing those so that they're here on site and ready to go.
Okay.
So that when the big project's done and installed, we can add the other little projects.
Now, you said preschool, so none of the other grades would have access to this, or?
Our childcare would be able to fully access this as well. But of course, we're not going to say no, get off the material, but because it's grant funded, it is intended for certain students to be able to utilize. But we're not going to prohibit anybody from going out and enjoying a book under the gazebo.
But it's preschool based, that's what the grant
Yeah,
is.
it
That's
falls
right.
under the
Right,
child care
yes.
stabilization, so it's.
And this stuff is pretty sturdy then, just in case some third grader wanders over there?
Yes, and a lot of the stuff I've actually looked at, the installation, the materials, and the gazebo itself is fully engineered. There's a stamp drawing of it, so it is very sturdy material. Yes.
Even for like our weather?
Yes.
It'll be actually inside the,
Is it gated in? Or will you have access to a
We
gate?
you cannot gate that area because it's considered a fire egress from those classroom doors. So they've looked at putting a fence at that one end, and they can't.
It's a fire escape, so they have their emergency fire exit there, so we won't be able to gate them.
So the sidewalk goes from the main door off the hallway, kind of down, I won't say down the center, but kind of down. It doesn't come off each classroom door because that's only intended to be for emergency egress.
I have a couple questions about the equipment too. I'm just curious, like, so on the water table, like, are there drains in it so that you can drain it so it doesn't stay all gross? Okay. And then the hollowed out wood thing looks totally cool, but I'm just curious, is it big enough for an adult to get in to get a child that just refuses to come out?
they're going to want to stay there the whole time. We know this.
Yeah, I will look into that. I'm pretty sure I might be one of those.
You would be the one
to go get the kid out. Right, and then I was looking at this graph, I don't know if I can't really see the word, but it says gazebo and pool?
No.
Pad. Oh, there's a pad. All right, I'm like, wait, why is there a pool? Yeah, there's gonna be a pad. I know, maybe I need to change my prescription. Yeah, okay, all right. It looks like pool. I was getting hopeful, okay.
Well, thank you, Tammy.
It looks so cool.
Yeah. What a really amazing, cool introduction to Will LE. Truly, that's great, yeah.
So I just want to say, in the past on the child care, because this is our third grant we've received, we have given money back to families as part of the child care to a tune of, ballpark off the top of your head?
Close to 60,000.
60,000 of the grant we received, we turned around and credited our families' accounts because that was what was encouraged in the grant, and so we wanted to stay true to the intent of the grant. And like I said, all of this, part of this grant will also cover the cost of replacing the child care furniture in the child care rooms, which will be the next step. So you'll be getting a PO very soon for that one to approve.
I have the game.
From games to furniture to little couches, completely revamping the
Really
furniture
good
in the
stuff for the
child care.
students that are here before and after school.
Yeah.
So another attraction to our district.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
And I would just add, this has been our continued effort, any grants that we've had to minimize the structural long-term, because as these grants go away, we want to be able to sustain what we have. And so by making these investments and improvement, this is long-term for us.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice. Hey, I'm looking forward to seeing you playing in the lawn. Okay, our next item on our agenda is Section 31AA, Student Mental Health Guidance. Mr. Walmsley.
Okay, tonight I want to present to the board, we received a grant, Section 31AA. It's titled Student Mental Health Guidance. And I'm going to go over what are the allowable costs for this grant. For the budget amendment that you have, that are being presented tonight, in order to make sure we expend the funds in the time that we need it, we have temporarily classified all of our counselors, I'm looking for Tam's right, we'll charge them to this grant, because then it frees up general fund to have more discretion and then put them back if you guys choose some of these other options. In this presentation, for the people in the audience, there is a part for public comment, and there's a sheet. If you have thoughts that you want to share with the board on any of these as far as supportive, not supportive, this would be an opportunity. I will also take, obviously, comments that I receive from parents and so forth as we finalize the actual dollar expenditures. But 31AA is one of the many grants that was put out by the state of Michigan to address many aspects. And so this is a document you have in your packet, and what's up on the screen is actually from the Michigan Department of Education's website. And the grant allocated roughly $109 per pupil to the district. So for us, it's $182,944 that we have been allocated or received. If you recall back in, I believe it was maybe October, I had made a comment that I was applying for this, school safety grants. There was a process we had to go through. As quick as the state moves, we just were notified that we've got it, and it's now nearing the end of March. And these funds have to be exhausted, at least this grant, really by September 30th. So that's why it may be beneficial to reclassify counselors to absorb so we get these funds and keep the dollars in the general fund to be able to do elsewhere, or to put the counselors back when we go back to the FY24 budget. But the allowable expenses allowed under Section 31A include the following. You can hire or contract support staff for student mental health needs, such as school psychologists, social workers, counselors, or school nurses. In this process, the district should be coordinating hiring and the use of these funds with other at-risk grants that we've received. We received 31A, which is our at-risk grant. We currently pay for summer school. We have some at-risk teachers, some portions of teachers' salaries that are paid out of 31A. You can purchase and implement mental health screening tools, and there's a link that you can click on that will give you some guidance. You can provide school-based mental health personnel, to consult with behavioral health technicians or clinicians to respond to complex student mental health needs. Some of this partnership, we could probably utilize some of the care that we use for care that's out of the general fund could be charged to here if we wanted to do that. Other mental health services or products necessary to improve and maintain the mental health of students and staff. In the last contract, I believe it was last contract, we added a staff and student, I'm drawing a blank on the name, kind of I don't want to say mental health coordinator in each building, with the idea that at some point we could allocate dollars and the staffs in each building could utilize and do things that will support teachers and students' well-being. So if it might be little things such as appreciations Fridays or bringing in coffee or something to lift people up and make them feel better about what they're doing. It could be other things. It could be bringing in yoga if that's what the building wanted, and maybe during lunch offer yoga as a way of de-stressing and so forth. Those are some of the areas that you can do. It's very broad. Many districts are utilizing these funds in a variety of ways. Some districts have hired nurses to help with, the diabetic students or anybody who has medical issues. Currently, that decision or that responsibility falls on our secretarial and administrative team, primarily at each of the buildings. Like I said, these are some of the subcategories. You can pay for local apprenticeship programs. We have some staff who are interested in going back and getting their counseling certifications or social work. So this would be a way of helping reduce their costs or paying for this. That would be something I do have to negotiate with unions regarding, because it is a benefit that I would, but it's something that I would consider and recommend to the board, that if we have staff who are willing to go into an area that is a shortage, that we seriously consider allocating dollars for that. Again, you can do different screeners, testing. That's nothing that I'm recommending for the board. You can hire a coordinator to help build and strengthen comprehensive school-based behavioral health system. It's a lot of words there, but it's very broad in what the district needs and how they want to utilize it. You can create or strengthen school-based behavioral health assessment teams. You can hire or contract with experts to provide evidence-based training that supports. Some districts are contracting with hospitals and bringing in individuals to work with students that might need additional support. The requirements of this grant represent that the district or intermediate school district, in our case the district, will gather input from our constituents on how to use these funds. The district will pledge to host, or shall pledge on behalf of the constituents, that we host one community conversation about student mental health and school safety, which we will plan and do. Though the activity that happened a couple weeks ago with the Macomb Family Services that was in the lobby of our high school would technically count, but I'm looking at other community conversations regarding this. And then the district must commit to work with the MISD to avoid duplication. So if there's a service that they provide for us, we aren't starting another service and duplicating. You can enhance it, but not supplement what they're doing. So again, this is the guidance. There's a lot of links on here that you can click. The application was submitted back in October. We did receive the application of $182,944. I'll end here at this point. Is there any questions about this grant that the board may have? Because the next step would be opening up to public comment if people want to speak specifically on this grant.
Did I understand that you said we already got the money, and so you've moved the general fund stuff, the counselor positions, that over already?
Right now, we have done that to make sure that we exhaust the dollars so that we don't give anything back to the state.
Got it.
But if you, as a board, say, we want to do X, those dollars, and let me rephrase it. Charging it to the grant, we're not reducing the general fund. Those dollars are still in general fund, so that they're going to actually, if we end up doing that, they'll actually go in the roll-up for next year, so they'll still be there. We're not losing them.
Okay.
But if you tell me you want to do X, then we're basically charging them back to general fund and doing whatever the board directs to pay for it out of the grant. Okay. It's just the timing of this and making sure that we expend the resources, given that this is March, that we get notified that we've got this.
Because we don't want to give money back.
We don't want to give that money back.
Have we, Brian, so have we spent the 182,000? Or, I don't know if I'm going to say spent, but is it all allocated at this
I would say if you allocated the, Tammy help me out here, ballpark, if we move the current expenses of counselors to the grant, does that exhaust the full 182? All right, so then we could look at doing, whether it's an allocation to buildings, whether it's we allocate a certain dollar value for those staff that want to go back to get these counselor or social worker degree. We could do a variety of things.
So my question is if we already allocated that money, like moved that money basically, where we've moved the counselors onto that money, like right now. That's what you're saying, we've already done that, correct?
We've done it on paper.
Yes.
To present to you in the next item.
Okay, gotcha, okay.
Until you approve it.
Right.
Nothing moves.
It happens, right.
Nothing happens. I mean,
But if we were to approve it, if we were to do that, then that money goes into the general fund, which then gives us more, I guess, like it goes in the general fund so we could basically use it wherever we wanted to at that point.
For this year. And
Yes.
then next year, we would put the counselors back in the general
Correct.
fund.
Right.
So at the end of this year, if you didn't reallocate that money anywhere, at the end of the year, your bottom line is going to be a lot better because you have not, am I correct, Tammy? Am I saying this right? Your
Right,
bottom
that's what my
line is
question
better
is.
and you're going to be putting that money basically into fund balance. But
So
we've
we-
left the money in the budget so that when we roll the budget over and start the budget discussion, you've already got the
Got that money there.
counselors paid for next year. if you will.
So, but by doing that, though, we then have more of a, I don't know, a variety of what we can do with the money, I guess.
If it's in general fund, you have the discretion of what you guys want to do. If
Because
it's in
we're
a
already
grant
actually, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you
No,
off.
no.
So, because we're already actually using that money, we're using we're putting the counselors, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what we're using
So
that for.
we've used the grant and met the grant requirements.
So we've met the
and got
requirements,
it.
that's right, okay, all right.
Yes.
Got it.
So we don't lose money. That's
Mm-hmm.
my goal is, but we use it in a way that this board wants to use it and have the best discretion, biggest discretion available.
Tammy, do you know how much is not allocated out of that chunk?
Well, we actually tentatively budgeted the entire amount, partially to counselors and partially to the student advocate position. But the student advocate position is also in, so it'll.
In ESSER.
Okay, got it.
So it's tentative.
Okay, I just want to know.
So the dollars that we can keep the longest, we're using the dollars that have to be spent first and shifted things back.
Got it.
Because at some point, ESSER is going to run out at the end of next year, so at some point, we got to figure out whatever's in ESSER, what are we going to maintain?
So do we have any other ideas of what you would want to spend the money on? Say, I know we're holding on to it right now by putting the counselors in that role or whatever, but if we were to put them back, on the general fund and use the dollars from the grant, do you have any ideas? I did like the idea that you said, if there's some teachers that wanted to go back to get like a counseling certificate or something like that, help offset their cost, especially since they're offering the TEACH program, which, kind of is for somebody that's just walking into the district. So this is something for somebody who's already established here at the district if they want to do something. That would be amazing. Is there anything else that you're...
I as a collective, from my collective team, there hasn't been a need or a want to get into these other things. Could we add more counselors? Yeah, absolutely, but the challenge we're going to have is there's not enough counselors out there to fill all the vacancies.
So why not?
Social workers. I mean, we contract for school psychologists for IEPs, for specific IEPs that require school counselor or school psychologist testing. If you wanted to expand it, we could provide more options.
Would we have a need for a full-time school psychologist for the 3 buildings or what?
I would sit down with the team and Renee and say, okay, we've gone, I can't tell you how many years we've contracted with psychologists, well, before I got here. It would have to rethink how we utilize that person.
I feel like a counselor would be much more beneficial than a psychologist.
Well, and
But you
that's
gotta
part.
look at psychologists there's a lot of testing involved in it, so that would relieve
For the testing
someone
portion,
out.
I understand that, but I mean as a
Because
whole.
school psychologists, sometimes we think of it too much of what it truly is in a school setting. And for me, the testing, all the stuff that falls in line with the school psychologist would take that off of somebody else in the district who is doing that testing and all of that stuff.
Okay, I guess I'd
that's
have
how
to
I would
see
get it.
what the role of a school psychologist is versus a medical psychologist.
In Richmond, it's been testing.
Okay.
In Richmond, that's been the role for IEPs.
Okay.
It has not been testing for any student, it's just been specifically for IEPs.
You just say the word psychologist and it automatically goes in a certain direction.
Oh,
so-
You're absolutely, any of these,
Yeah.
I mean, based on your prior.
Mhm.
I also love the idea of giving back to the teachers if that's what they choose to do, especially because it's such a need right now. But I mean, I'd also like to hear what everybody else would like to say about it.
How often have we used the psychologist this year?
I don't know that off the top of my head. It's about $7,000 the budget a year-ish. Some years it's gone as high as 10, some years it's been, depending on the student that's being referred for special education services. In some years it's been under 5. But
So we pay that currently out of the general fund?
currently we pay. I mean, technically, when you look at this, you could take that general fund and charge it to here and free up that general fund.
But it's for 1 year?
Correct.
So this is not...
Well, let me say that. In the governor's budget that she presented, it's not the budget that's approved. There are segments of these for future years, but these are those categoricals that could go at any time.
So these are not, this was never called the ESSER grant fund? This was never...
This is not ESSER. This is section 31A, which sections are all state funded. When you see the word section, it's all a state grant. Now, they may have used their federal dollars to help supplement these. I don't know where the backdoor from the state, but this is a state grant.
So if the board wants to maintain control over the allocations, we have to keep it in the general fund?
Well, you have control over this allocation, you just got to spend it this way. Where the general fund, you could say, we're going to use, I know it's not going to cost $100,000 to build a pool. You can do that. You have that discretion. Nobody, other than the rules of licensing and construction, govern you. You can spend it however you want.
So you would approach us at any point if you wanted to, whatever you wanted to use this on, is that?
Well, my recommendation to you as a board is we take everything that's currently in general fund or a grant that doesn't expire for a while, and we reclassify the expenses here to free up those dollars to give you as a board the most discretion. That would be my recommendation to you.
And so we don't lose it. It's kind of like a shell game, in a sense.
That's an accident. It is a shell.
We're just moving it so that we don't lose it.
Because we're not getting...
The one thing I would add that I would say that I would recommend is allow me to go meet with the union to negotiate what does that look like if we have staff who want to go back for these. What does that compensation look like?
Yeah.
And I'd also be interested in, I don't know how much the CARES Act, but I mean, if we could take that from our general fund, and if it's not as much, I don't know how much it would eat up on this year's allocation, or whatever we have left over. You said the CARES Act, or the CARES program?
The program, the council.
Yes, we could take that out of general fund as well.
Yep, I can look at that dollar amount and just charge it to you're talking the Southeast Michigan.
Yes.
Right.
So to be clear, in the future, if you wanted to use, let's say, this D to create or strengthen school-based behavioral health assessment teams, we would be asked first if that was a route you were going to take with this.
So what would happen in the future? Let's assume the governor's budget is approved and that's what we go with. When you do your budget in June, if we know that, we would have a revenue account in and expenses out, and we would go over in that June budget, here are the expenses that we're recommending the board. And at that time, at the first meeting, you could say, yep, we're on board, and we approve it at the next meeting. You could say, nope, we're not interested in how these dollars are being spent, we want to go in a different direction. Probably, this will not be included in the budget because I am very doubtful that we'll actually have clarification that it will be ready. It would be an amendment that's coming in. Or we're going to leave the 184 as is, or 182 as is, and just keep everything as is for next year. And if you want to undo it, then we could undo it. Am I clear or am I clear as mud? I just want to make sure. So depending on the timing when that budget is approved, we could either keep things as is, knowing in the general fund, you've got still dollars allocated for the stuff that we charge to the grant that is not going to be expended. Because at one point, whenever this ends, you're going to have to, now you can make a decision and spend that as a board and utilize those dollars. But when the grant expires, then we got to figure out ways to put the stuff back that we value that's being charged to the grant.
Right.
Well, that being said, I kind of like the idea of maybe the staff mental health as well, because that could be a one-time. You said it was for staff, right? They would get some kind of budget to do something to...
We started this year with a student and staff wellness. Thank you. Wellness. The last couple of meetings have fallen on snow days, so it's been canceled. But we had a group getting together to provide, our goal was to put a survey out to staff to say, okay, what are some of the things that are your stressors that we could help alleviate? And it might be something that the elementary wants to do that's different from the middle school versus for the high school. That was the intent of the positions. This would allow us to allocate some of these funds to help you use in those capacities.
I would be happy with that, because I mean, that way, if it didn't go, it's not something you do already have a budget allocated for that? Do you have?
We have the stipend for the person in each building allocated.
Okay.
But there's no supply dollars that go with it at this point.
I would be interested in that.
Okay, Ms. Simmons, one question, yes, it would come back to us.
Thank you.
To decide.
Thank you. That's
Yeah,
my concern.
I know that's what you were looking for.
All of these are not anything I would, some of them not what I would
It would come
be
back,
voting
because
yes on.
we have to ask-
I want to make sure, be clear that this would come to the board for a vote.
So you're asking, then just to clarify, you're asking that before he implement any of these programs, it would be approved by the board?
Correct.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
always the case though, right?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
So you will know. Okay, is there any other questions from the board before we open it up to the public?
I'm good.
Okay, I'm
So
sorry,
the
Brian.
public comment part is if there's anybody in the listening audience that has some views looking at these items that are allowable, looking at these items that we could consider. Some of these items we do not do as a district, but we could utilizing these funds. We're seeking some input here.
We did a little research on the 33 AA, or 31, I'm sorry.
31A?
Yeah, I really like the idea that you came up with, because I do have a packet that I went through and I had said yes, which I'm assuming you did. I'm sorry, rude. I went through and said yes on all of it, and it actually gave me what we would have to do and what rules we would have to follow. And we would have to have allocated it towards a school psychologist and certain mental health people. So I really like your idea of where we can use it somewhere else, and so I appreciate that. I had a question, and I left my notebook, so I apologize. Does this thing, here it is. Now that you got this and that we have got the money for this, does this make all of our kids at a tier 1 at risk? Because this is an at-risk, this 31AA, does that make us all like this tier 1 at-risk group for like the mental health?
Pardon?
I don't think so.
No, this is a little unique than our normal public comment. Because just from this perspective, normally I wouldn't interact, but this is just for clarifying. 31A is at-risk funds. This is the mental health 31AA. What the dollars, when you look at what you would use these for, like social workers count, they're assuming or have some basis that a district has a way of identifying which students would need that service. And if you're going from that mindset, like academics, tier 1 is what you get in the classroom that all students should get. And then you got your tier 2, which is more of your targeted, might be your Title I and so forth. And then tier 3 might be your very intensive struggle. So if you're hiring for a school psychologist, at some point, one psychologist isn't going to be able to service 1,500 students. So you'd have to identify who are the most neediest or who would need or benefit from it. So you'd have to do that type of
So does it automatically put everybody at a tier 1?
It would put everybody in the perspective of, we're considering everybody, but we're identifying these students based on these reasons, and that would be left kind of up to the district or buildings to decide what those reasons are, like they do for Title I now or so forth, on what students would get those services. So everybody's on the main list in terms of being considered, but not everybody's going to get that service because the funds aren't enough to provide. Like I said, I use a psychologist for every student. Not every student needs that. I don't know if that helps or clarifies a little bit more.
So technically the answer.
Are you asking, I'm sorry, are you asking if every student's going to be labeled as an at-risk?
Right, because we're collecting.
That's what I thought you were asking.
Yes, because we collected the state-funded money, we were awarded this grant. So does that enter the whole entire school as a tier 1, not just picking out the select few? That would technically be the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So
you want to know, are we going to be labeled an at-risk district?
Correct.
Yes.
That's what I'm getting anyways.
From the state, no. The at-risk discs are labeled based on your percentage of free and reduced lunch students that you have for Title I. The higher you have, the more at-risk factors you have. When we look at 31A, which is at-risk funding, there is a set of criteria that can be vast, that I think any student could actually qualify. But we get those dollars based on
Free and reduced lunch, which
especially our
makes no
Title
sense.
dollars.
So the answer then is no, we're not technically labeled an at-risk district.
Because we
applied for this grant.
No, there's no label that I am part of, or that I, as a superintendent, say, okay, I'm taking this, and I'm going to become an at-risk district. There's nothing that I do as a district by accepting this funds.
Thank you.
I say, I accept and I'll use these funds based on these categories, and that's where I think our creativity about, let's charge things we already use, so that you can free up the general fund and do what you want to do with it. And I say what you want, I mean the board, so.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And here to sign the sheet plan.
Question, comment, not a public comment, but
If you just, it's, if we're ever out, I gotta say, I did this, I'm gonna show them the video, and I did this.
Middle school, just something you consider, because you said you're looking at considerations. I don't know if any of these funds could be used for programs, maybe after school hours. There's been some public concerns lately about some programs, so maybe offering something if parents chose to put their kids in after school.
Are you referencing programs that would fall into this?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not let's say a tutoring or academic.
No.
Got it.
Programs under here towards mental health. And I know CARES, even the CARES program might have something that was up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good idea.
Is it possible to maybe look into doing what Anchor Bay School District is doing with their plainclothes, armed individuals in their school to keep their school safe? Is that something? Because I mean, that's basically school resource
officer type deal?
That would fall under section 97, which is school
Okay.
safety.
Okay,
And
I wasn't sure
that
if
will be
it
a conversation that will come to this board in terms of utilizing those dollars.
Okay, because I think that would be a really good idea for this district to do.
The current 97 is targeted for the police that we did have at the beginning of the year, the night lock shade, the night locks, which will come at a certain point, and
The Centrex system.
the notification badge that you approved.
Push button?
The push button, yes.
Okay.
But for next year, that will be a conversation when we start the budget that I will be bringing back to the board to have a conversation.
Okay, and then I just want to kind of piggyback on, like, I think you had kind of asked the question. When you're taking all these funds that were in the general fund and now using it with this grant, what are we planning to do with that extra money in our general fund? I mean, what can we do to maybe benefit our teachers more? That's where I would look, to try and use those general funds for. I know that this is more about asking about grant money, but I think you guys really need to kind of take a deep dive on how much, I mean, obviously you're gonna have $182,944 of general funds to use. It's a big chunk of money to go towards our teachers, towards classroom supplies, something of that nature, so. And then it also boosts morale in the school, so it's kind of 2 birds with 1 stone there. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I love the idea.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Tressa DeVoe.
Thank you.
I love the idea that Mr. Jarvis proposed about having an after-school option, using these funds for some form of student support. I think that's a great idea, especially for parents who are trying to opt their child out of other things. Yeah, I'm wondering if this conversation, this open dialogue here is fulfilling the requirement that's required of this. Will there be any other community conversation? After we maybe go home and think of something else that we said, oh, I wish we would have asked. Is this our only opportunity to ask our questions regarding this?
I'm going to say no, from the perspective of if the decision is to shift the funds as I talked about for this year, if the dollars are in for next year, the same requirements, to my knowledge at this point, would be for next year's allocation. We'd have to have further conversation about that. I would be more than happy to bring, if parents are talking and they come up with another idea, I take emails, I will take anything and bring it back to the board saying this is another option.
I love that this is going to counselor salaries. It frees up funds. I get that. That's fantastic. You mentioned the student advocate also. Is there any kind of requirement of a staff person, a qualification maybe that they have to have in order to spend these funds on that person's salary?
This is the only guidance we've gotten as a district. So when you look at, like, if it's a counselor, the counselor does have to have certain requirements. They have to be certified as a or a psychologist. Yes, from that
So a
angle.
support staff for students' mental health needs is kind of vague. Is that where other staff would fall into that category?
Yes.
Thank you.
Brian, can I ask, what is Ms. Redmond's qualifications? I mean, is that allowed to be, is she a teacher?
She's a certified teacher, yes.
Okay.
She's got a lot of training in various specialty areas, working with students who deal with trauma. There's no certification, but she's gone through and gotten training in that aspect. She's gone, I mean, if you want, I can get your resume. She's got a lot of background, which is one of the things that attracted us when we looked at that position, because if you recall, we were looking at a third counselor and not finding candidates. We figured, well, what would they be doing that could not really necessarily a counselor has to do. Could there be another staff? And that's where Mrs. Redmond's position evolved to. So that was more that to get her credentials and all that.
Didn't we already get that when we hired her?
Yeah, you would have, yeah, in that packet, in the, whatever date the hire packet was, I don't remember it off the top of my head.
No, I'm fine. I mean, she's given the curriculum to follow. Renee knows exactly what she's doing, so.
Except remember Renee, it's not curriculum.
Well.
Well, just make sure that you're saying it right.
Soft curriculum. I mean, exercises.
Okay, so you need from us, Brian, where we want to go or any suggestions? If we suggest you look at, for example, I think there's the thought. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. No,
No.
we're still discussing. Come on.
Well, no, because it's public comments. I thought we were done.
That's fine. Well,
Go.
this inspired me to ask another one based on what Candace is asking. Jessica Hebel, can this money be used? I'm not sure that I'm comfortable with a teacher who is not qualified. She doesn't have any credentials in social worker or counseling areas. Is there a way we could use this money to purchase a program like Leader in Me, or there's so many programs out there for all age groups. Could we use this money to buy a program that this new position could utilize? And then parents would be able to know what is being presented to our kids. Because it sounds like right now we have nothing in front of us to look at. And it's like a rumor mill. Well, my kid interpreted the question this way, and this is what really got said, and as an educator myself, I know you build on your lesson based on what kids are dialoguing and asking. So I realize that it can go anywhere, but if there was a curriculum in place, I think it would reassure many of us that we know what is being presented. And it sounds like maybe we could find a way to use this money.
We could do it.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, anyone else before I move on? Okay, so there's a couple things we'd like you to look into. So we talked about, okay, our current counseling and social workers, if we move that money. We talked about the teachers, the option to give the teachers that money to go to school, become a counselor. Hey, help me out, guys. What else did we?
Possibly an after-school program.
Oh, possibly an after-school program, possibly
Our programs.
a curriculum or something for our, let's see, I was looking at my notes. Is that it from the board?
I think that was most of
That's all I had.
discussed.
And this is a one-time grant. And we apply for it every year, or is this the first time they're even giving us this?
This is the first time we've gotten this grant. They've offered it, so it was applied for back in October, so we just got it for this year. It is listed in the governor's budget that was sent to the legislators to debate. I don't know if they'll follow the same process where you have to go in and apply, or if it will become part of our state aid payment that we have a line in, it's a section 31A with a per pupil. I don't know how next year will look, but this year we had to apply for it.
Thank you.
Any other questions, any other?
I just,
comments?
with that being said, I guess I would just want to do maybe one time, anything that's maybe a one-time, we're thinking along the lines of a one-time payment
Because that
type
may be
scenario.
what it is.
Right, because we may not be able to.
We may not
rely on
have it again.
Right.
Right.
I would agree. Okay, next item on our agenda is our fiscal 2023 general fund budget amendment number 2. Welcome, Tammy.
Am I putting up the sheets?
No, I'm going to do the
Okay.
PowerPoint.
Yep. All right, I'm going to switch it over to you. So as Tammy's loading it, the budget amendment 2 are a series of grants and changes in the budget that are not as significant as the budget amendment 1 that we just did in February.
budget amendment 2 highlights. It's going to be a little different presentation because it's mostly focused on grants, and that is grant money coming in as revenue and grant money going out with equal amount in expenditure. The purpose is we have some new state grants and we need to add them to our budget, so we've done that. They're listed here, the 31AA, the 97 School Safety Grant, the 97C Security Risk Assessment Grant, the 97D Critical Incident Mapping Grant, and the 104I Benchmark Assessment Grant. Those are all state grants that are new to us that we have not budgeted for. Then we have 3 more state grants that we're just adjusting. The Section 41, Special Ed, and GSRP Transportation. Then we have 3 federal grants that we're just modifying. So how does it affect our revenues? So if you look, we have our original general fund budgeted revenues, our First Amendment and our Second Amendment. Local revenues have not changed in the Second Amendment. State revenues have increased about $390,000. I will go into which grants are in that category. And then we have the federal revenues that have increased about $126,000. So it brings our total revenues where we started the year originally at $21 million, just under $21,100,000. Our First Amendment brought us in at $21,500,000, and this increases us just over $22 million in total revenues. So the first grant, as we discussed, is $182,944 for the mental health grant. We are using, right now, we've tentatively budgeted for the student advocate position and part of counseling positions. It's about a 0.46 FTE in counseling positions. That's tentative and can be moved. It's a budget, how we plan to spend it at this point, but it can be adjusted. Then we have the 97C School Safety Grant, which is another about $184,000. We approved back in November the crisis alert notification system that is budgeted to be funded out of this grant. We have the City of Richmond police officers that were on site January, February. And then we also have added exterior security cameras that I think we need around the middle school. And then night lock shades and night lock door locks.
I just want to point out here, the police officers, they did it as long as they could to sustain it. They do not have the capacity to maintain it. I did have a conversation with the City of Richmond about if we wanted to add this as a permanent, and again, that would be in the conversation for next budget, would they have the capacity? Could they hire and have the capacity? I did receive communication back that they are not interested in continuing in that fashion. They don't. The police officers area alone has shortages in police officers, and so they would be looking at hiring more people, and based on that, they don't think they would be able to have the capacity to long-term have one in every building. So if that's something, like I said, when we get to that conversation in the budget, the board wants to continue, there are other options, retired contract companies, et cetera, which will come up in that conversation. So.
The next new state grant is the 97C Security Risk Assessment Grant, which is $2,000 per building. So for us, we have the 3 school buildings, and we're planning to work with Macomb County to complete assessments on all 3 buildings.
The Macomb County Emergency Management has been certified. To date, all 21 school districts are utilizing this funds to go to them, and then we will have a contract with them for the next 5 to 6 years for them to come do. Every 3 years we have to have our buildings assessed, and they can do it. So it's a lot cheaper, more efficient. They already know our buildings, and than hiring a third-party company who comes in, does the job, and leaves.
Another new state grant is the 97D Critical Incident Mapping Grant for $10,500. That is a mapping of graphics and floor plans of all 3 school buildings.
This is Macomb County with the guidance of the emergency manager. All the districts are using the same company so that they can have the law enforcement in each of the municipalities be able to. I equate this to like if you go on to, you're buying a home and you go in those 3D virtual tours. This allows law enforcement to be able to look into our buildings once it's mapped, to be able to, if they say something's going on in the 300 wing, it allows the law enforcement to visualize where that is in the building. Like I said, all 21 districts are committing to use the same vendor because this is a vendor-specific section in the grant.
Another new grant that's for benchmark assessments is the 104I. That's another new state grant, and we'll be using that funding to partially offset our NWEA benchmark assessment tool. Some other state grants that have been modified or we had to change. We had the Section 41 bilingual grant in the budget, Amendment 1, but we've increased it. We received a 2022-2023 grant for $18,361. The other previously was just carryover. So we budgeted for a bilingual paraprofessional position as well as some other things, but the other bigger item is the Imagine Learning English Language Acquisition Program. And 51C grant is a special education grant, and it comes in our state aid, and it's based on our reported special ed costs on our actual cost report that we submit in the fall each year for the prior year. So when we submitted our 21-22 actual cost report, the expenditures were less than what they paid us on last year. So they've made an adjustment, and they're reducing our allocation for 51C by $27,000. And then for years, we've been receiving a GSRP transportation grant from Oklahoma ISD. We had a budgeted amount in there, but it's increased by $1,659 for GSRP transportation. That's the last of our state grant changes. Then we have 3 federal grants that we have modified in this amendment too. We've had to add additional $3,000 for Title II. ESSER 3 has been modified by about $68,000, and child care stabilization has been modified by about $54,000. Those are all increases in our federal grants. Nothing real big with Title II, but I will go over the ESSER 3 plan. It's
Can I interject? If you recall, when we got the ESSER 3, we presented, here's how we plan on spending the dollars over the next 3 years. And we can only ask for basically a third of it each year, or get a third of it. As year 1 is finished, there may be expenses that didn't go to the full amount that we budgeted, so they get carried over. And so this is how, this is an update of the plan and the years. There's nothing significant in this that is different than what we originally proposed to you over a year ago.
So year 1 is the 21-22. Those are actual numbers. Year 2 is this current year that we're in, and then year 3 is next year, the 23-24 school year. The first item we budgeted was COVID aids. So last year we had up to 2 allowed per building. We didn't always have 2 in each building. This year we're planning, we have 1 in each building, and next year we're planning to not have any in the buildings.
So this has been the plan that we would phase out the COVID aids over time.
We also have COVID sub-teachers in each building. Again, last year we had budgeted for up to 2. We didn't quite have 2 all year long. This year we have 1 budgeted for each building, and next year we're planning the same. Counselors, again, we did the phase out where it's 50-50 ESSER 3 grant last year and 50-50 non-grant in the general fund. And this year we've decreased the ESSER 3 part to 25% and 75% in the general, and the next year will be all general fund. Then we have an instructional coach position that we've heard about tonight. Last year we weren't able to fill it, so we were, but we have now, so we have 1 FTE for this year and 1 FTE for next year. We also have retention bonuses. Last year that covered teacher retention bonuses. This year and next year we're planning to cover both teacher and administrator retention bonuses.
So on this particular item, when we resettled the contract, there was the 1% off schedule payment that we had. That 1% was put on the matrix. So on the matrix, when I pay a teacher, 1% of their salary is coming out of ESSER 3. The other 99% is coming out of general fund or the appropriate grant. So we still kept the 1% in here. It's just how the teacher receives that 1% that's different. It's not a payment, it's part of their pay, their flat rate pay. Same thing with administrators. Although the administrator contract, sorry Tammy, still has an off-schedule payment paid in December, I think it is, as a retention.
Last year, because we weren't able to have the instructional coach, we shifted the money to and used it for the science curriculum that we purchased. And obviously that was last year, so we don't have anything budgeted for this year or next year for science. Professional development, again, we planned to do some last year, but we were short-handed. This year we have $50,000 budgeted for professional development for all the core teachers in all the core classes. And then next year we have additional money for professional development. And then, as you know, we offer a virtual instruction option. Last year, we were able to fund it out of our ESSER 2 grant, which expires earlier than ESSER 3. So we used ESSER $2 for last year's virtual instruction pay. This year, we're funding it out of ESSER 3 as well as next year for virtual instruction. We have money budgeted for summer programs. Last year, we were able to utilize other grants that were expiring for the summer programs. This year, we have about $23,000, and next year, the same for summer programs. Again, technology equipment, we didn't budget anything or spend anything last year for technology. This year, we are using it for laptops and classroom cameras for the new classrooms at Lee and the middle school. And then next year, we have more funds to be determined how we're going to spend them. One of the things that was discussed are the Minios for classrooms at the high school and middle school.
So the current projectors that are in the middle school, high school classrooms, those interactive projectors, those were put in 14. They're nearing 10 years. Those dollars would replace those units with what we have at the elementary school, which is the large flat screen interactive TVs. That total cost, I did get a price to replace it, is $192,000 for the middle school and high school. So we are not that far off to be able to pay for that one-time purchase out of the grant dollars rather than having to be a general fund.
And then the last thing, we're able to allocate indirect costs, which kind of covers your time, my time, payroll time, technology time, that we can't itemize in a grant or claim directly in a grant, but we're allowed to take a small percentage based on our bid submission, what our indirect cost report is, and so it's a restricted rate, so we're allowed to take some money for that. It just kind of allows us to keep some of the money for other costs that we can't charge specifically to the program. So in total, over the 3 years, last year we spent about $479,000. This year, the budget includes $604,000 in revenue and expenditures, and then next year we're projecting about $666,000. And that will complete the spending of the $1.7 million in ESSER 3.
So at the end of '24, when you look at what the ESSER plan is or has allocated, the structural expenses in there are continuing building subs and the instructional coach. And at some point, because we will have phased out the counselor, at some point, we're going to have to make that decision where we can charge those dollars, because those go away at the end of the '24.
We have monies for summer school in there or something.
There's monies for summer school, so at the end of '24, we may not be able to offer the level of summer school at no cost than like we have been over this year and last year. But we will continue, if we can find other grants, to do that. Renee's been very, very creative.
The last item that we wanted to adjust was our child care stabilization grant. There were 3 rounds of grants. We received the first one in the fall of '21, about $126,000, spring of '22, $136,000, and summer of '22, $106,000. Those grants all have to be spent by July 1st of this year. So total available right now in the budget is $218,000. We are able to cover our normal child care program costs, the cost of child care staff, supplies, that type of thing. We were able to increase rates of pay for the staff because we can hire people. This allows us to be able to hire staff. We awarded and you approved staff bonuses for retention and recruitment, so that when someone was considering coming on, we could promise them a bonus after they completed so much time in the district. Then the big thing, which I'm very proud of, is the tuition relief we provided to families. And after I thought about it, it's probably closer to $70,000 that we've been able to give to families in the form of a credit to their child care account. And then the last item, as Mr. Gibson and Mrs. Staples talked about, were the planned improvements with replacing classroom furnishings, buying some new games and other supplies for the kids to use in childcare, and then a new outdoor classroom that would be used for childcare and free during the day. Non-grant change, which was brought to you tonight by for the kids going for We the People, is about $28,000 to fund that competition. That is reflected in this second amendment of the budget.
So your bottom line of what goes into, oh, sorry, I jumped the gun.
So the bottom line, the original budget was about $20,987,000 in general fund expenditures. We went to $21,500,000 with the budget amendment 1 and budget amendment 2. We're just under $22,000, which puts our general fund excess revenues over expenditures in the second amendment at $28,738. Our beginning fund equity is $1.7 million. It goes to $1,757,000 with the budget amendment 2. Our ending fund equity percentage is about just under 8%, and then that fund balance unrestricted revenues percentage is just under 11%. And I don't have any questions on what I just presented, but you have the specific, the summary and the detail in the board packet information, so if you have specific questions on that, I'd be happy to answer them.
I do have a couple questions, but I'm not sure that they're actually for you or not. So in the assessment that's done, the security assessment that's done, where we get the 2,000 per building, and then we have to get those assessments. So in that assessment, is that assessment for security, like, as far as like the building, like the structural security, the security of the individuals inside the building, or is it like a risk assessment, like?
It's an assessment of the physical building, so they'll look at, doors. If someone was gonna ram through a door, these doors would be more of a priority to replace than these doors. It looks at the camera footage, what coverage you have. So districts that have no cameras, they may say you might want to add cameras. Ballards in front of doors to stop things from, or placing rock. They'll look at everything. They'll look at the age of, like I said, the age of doors.
Are they also going to be looking though, like at like the age of like structural things though, like almost like a risk assessment as far as like, this is up to code to withstand this much of a wind thing, or you know what I mean, or what?
They don't
like, is
do
anything
it that
like
way. What they do is the final report that they give you itemizes things to consider making improvements.
Okay.
With the most neediest down to what they would like. And then what districts do is then they got to figure out where they're paying for it.
Okay.
Whether they're using grants or whether they're going, bond or capital projects that they might have. In our case, we should have very few of those, I would expect, on our list. So we have some doors that weren't part of the original bond, but are starting to near looking at.
Okay.
We have started replacing those just through our internal, but that's what they provide.
So it's kind of
us.
all encompassed a little bit. Okay.
Yeah. They'll look at your traffic flows, they'll look at your campus, so they might say, you got a lot of traffic patterns that run close to the building. You might want to consider, if you're redesigning it, get it 20 feet out, put some boulders out to stop any bad people from doing it.
So it's like security / risk assessment. Yes. Okay. And then my other question is, I'm just wondering, does the district still give every student a laptop? Does every student have that? And if we have all this accessibility to all this technology, like, has it ever been brought to meet for a snow day just to go virtual instead of just calling off school? Is that a possibility? I don't know how the teachers feel about that or anything, but I'm just curious if that's ever been talked about, thought about.
It would have to be something that is negotiated, depending on the contract. There are there's language in different contracts that say whether someone is off or whether they can work, and it depends.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
But it could be in this day and age. a conversation that we could have with.
Just curious.
Yes.
All right. That's it.
Anyone else have any other questions for Taylor? Thank you, Taylor. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on our agenda, Mr. Bonsley, Superintendent District and Legislative Update.
Okay, I'm going to start with the legislative update. And it is even changed from even today. Last Wednesday, the House moved rather quickly to pass House Bill 4004 and 4005, which would repeal the right-to-work law, and House Bill 4007, which would reinstate prevailing wages. Both were major issues for the Democrats and the governor in the recent election. House Bill 4005 would repeal the right to work in the private sector. House Bill 4004 would repeal the right to work in the public sector. But it's important to note that in 2018, the Supreme Court ruled decision, I think it was Janus versus ASME, which is a public school employers, are not allowed to require union membership as part of employment. Therefore, the repeal of the Michigan law would not take effect unless the Supreme Court ruling is overturned, which is just something to work at. There's other ways that are being pursued. House Bill 4007 would reinstate prevailing wages for projects that are funded with any amount of state funding, which would include school district projects. So it's just something to watch as we bid contracts. We're at the end of our bonds, so it's not necessarily going to directly impact us as much. All three bills were passed along party line votes in the legislature. On Tuesday, the House passed Senate Bill 12 by a vote of 57-51. This bill repealed the mandatory retention section of the third grade reading law. It states that if a child is not reading at grade level as they move to fourth grade, a reading intervention plan would still have to continue. This bill is on to the governor, who she is expected to sign and approve. This has been one that I don't think ever should have been at the state as a mandatory retention. That's a decision between the parents, the teacher, and the principal at the building, what's in the best interest of the child, because there's so many other factors than one day's testing in time. So the Senate passes sinking funds, which was for school bus. So Richmond currently does not have a sinking fund, but many districts do. And in the last, this legislation would allow sinking funds to be used for purchasing buses. It's something down the road that the district may want to consider because a sinking fund is a steady stream over a period of time of funds that you can use for capital improvements in your buildings. That you wouldn't have to go out for a full bond for. But it just allows more flexibility for districts to use those funds. The Senate is just hearing two bills coming up. One is, the House is hearing Bill 4064, which would strongly encourage the Michigan Department of Education, doesn't mandate, to develop a model cursive writing curriculum and make that available to all schools should they adopt it. The second bill that they're taking up in the House or the Senate is House Bill 4157, which would require schools to excuse students from school to perform taps at military funerals if they were in the band and so forth. Just some things they are on the radar. The bond update you got tonight. The next is the approval of the contracts, which will be at the next meeting. District updates. Parent-teacher conferences were just recently. Spring conferences are typically lighter than in the fall. But needless to say, there was a decent turnout at our spring conferences, and hopefully it helped families see where their students are at. Lee Elementary School has Science Night, sponsored by the PTO on March 16th, which is coming up. If you're interested in going on March 16th, stop by Lee. It's always, I believe Cranbrook Institute of Science is one of the sponsors that are coming in to work with Lee. Middle school, the 5th graders have been doing Starbase. I've heard nothing but positives on that. It's a really great experience. Today is Pie Day. You should have gotten a pie from our curriculum director to celebrate Pie Day. Many activities were planned in math classes all over the district. And I know some board members may say this, so I'm not going to take too much of your thunder, but congratulations to our middle school choir. They really did outstanding. Are you going to speak about that? Then I'm going to stop and let you talk. But the accolades to them, they earned first division rating at the middle school. At the high school, it was talked about our band. Are you talking about band?
No, I give it to you. I was hoping you would cover it.
All right, our high school band earned first division ratings at Anchor Bay Festival, 18 out of 20 possible points. Just outstanding. What Mrs. Shack does with those kids is phenomenal. Unbelievable. Middle school, high school choir on the 13th, yesterday, they participated in the choral festivals at Dakota. They also earned first division rating. This is the first time, and I did not know this until the first time concert choir has performed at Corral Festival since 2006, which I didn't realize it's been that long, and they're in first division, so outstanding. Wow. They are all going on to states, so that will be another, hopefully we'll have some more presentations up here with our choir and band. May Peters, a 12th grader, and Aiden Kowalski, our 11th grader. Ms. Peters placed runner-up, and Mr. Kowalski placed first place with his Beetle. Their art is on the art show at the Macomb Secondary Art Show at the Anton Center at Mount Clemens. If you see the pictures online, they're just unbelievable. They are truly talented artists. The National Honor Society has their induction play, which will take place this Wednesday at 6:30. The varsity boys basketball lost last night in their regionals versus Goodrich. Hard-fought game, but it was a great season for them. Just reminding parents, scholarship season is upon us. We make many announcements during the day to family or to students. We send emails, check them. Parents, go on the website, find information. If your student doesn't say anything, I don't know what there's any scholarships. Maybe they're not listening during the announcements, but there is a website we've been updating, trying to get scholarships out there. And just a reminder for the class of 2023, FAFSA is coming close to deadline. Get that in there to get your best chance of getting scholarships and paying for post-high school experiences. That's all I have.
Okay. Moving on for items of interest from our board. I'm just going to do alphabetical. Candace, do you have any items?
Sure. First, I just wanted to say thank you to Mr. Mosley for the transparency with our meeting tonight with all the hot topics that I know that you are aware of that are hot. Thank you for opening it up for discussion for everybody to be able to share their thoughts and get their questions answered. Secondly, yes, I did attend the choir festival today, and the kids did an amazing job. They really did. It was a lot of fun, and yeah, they had a great time. Thirdly, I just wanted to share, and if you're going to pass this down, I brought these. I attended the first annual fundraiser this past Saturday for, it's called 42 Strong, which is in honor of one of the victims of the Oxford shooting, Tate Meyer. And this organization came together so fast shortly after the incident. It did include the whole community to bring it together, but if I could just read this little statement here about what this is about, because it really shows so much strength, and just hoping maybe one day we could maybe do something like this within our high school. So just a little explanation here. It's 42 Strong was created to carry on the legacy of Tate Manor, started during his short life with us. Tate lost his life along with 3 other students on 11/30/21 by a teen who had been failed by every person in his life. If that teen had a mentor, if someone had been there to help draw attention to his red flags, redirect him on a positive path, and give him a purpose, 11:30 would have been avoided. Tate sought mentors to help with his personal growth. He then took time to help others and encourage everyone to be the best version of himself. Our program connects mentors in grades 10 to 12 with mentees in grades 7 to 9. The goal is to create important connections to help navigate these challenging years. This fundraiser was absolutely amazing, and to see just it come full circle, no anger, no resentment, no towards the sad reality, which is that a child could have, the whole thing could have been avoided. And so this mentorship program is very unique, and I did get the business card of the brother, actually, who is the chairperson for this foundation, organization, I should call it. So maybe in the future, they would love to expand and possibly do assemblies for other high schools or other schools, as well as even kind of come in and show maybe train others and show them how their program runs. And maybe we could do it at some point. So that was it. I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Cindy.
Sure. So, first, I wasn't here at the last meeting, but I did watch the meeting, and Mr. Walmsley had indicated that some individuals made some donations to pay for the food balance for all the students. I just wanted to say thank you to those people. That means a lot to me and a lot to this district. I know it means a lot to those families, so thank you for that. I also, earlier when I was doing my rave, I mistakenly did not say congratulations to the choir director, Ms. Clore, so I apologize for that. Congratulations to her as well. And I also wanted to talk about the Richmond Education Foundation. Earlier they we did a presentation where they gave mini grants to teachers, but they also do, as Mr. Walmsley had indicated, scholarships. They also do scholarships for seniors. And they're having a fundraiser on April 29th, which is a night at the races. I did put some flyers out, and then there's some at the front of the door. If anybody's interested in any of that, you can get hold of any of us that are on the board to get tickets, or just if you want to purchase a horse or be a sponsor. It's a super fun night, and it's an awesome cause, and there's this group of people are amazing people that give so much of their time in doing this and putting it together, and every single penny goes back to the kids. It is a really awesome organization, so I just, if you want to look into that or whatnot, we'd love to have you. That's it.
Thank you. Angela? Oops, I'm going alphabetical. Really?
O comes before P.
I'm actually
I was
next.
literally going
I'm an
LFNO.
M, so I don't
Leaving
have
yourself
anything
out.
tonight, so Kelly?
So not totally school related, but I guess a little bit. I just wanted to tell everybody that we did Little League registrations last week, or thank you for letting us use the gym facilities in the high school to hold the tryouts or skills assessments that we were doing. It went over amazingly. We had so many kids, so many little kids. We have record enrollment this year for Little League, and better than 90% of them are Richmond residents or students. So we're really excited about what Little League's going to look like this year. We have way too many teams. It's going to be busy.
It's a good problem to have.
It is. Yeah.
Okay, Angela, now it's your turn.
I just wanted to point out that we were able to go to the Macomb County School Board Association meeting at Anchor Bay, and they did a phenomenal job there. They hosted dinner and had the band students, the jazz band playing, which they did just an amazing job. And I wanted to point out there was a short presentation that we were able to see, and it said that birth rates are actually declining and have been declining for some time in Macomb County, but are kind of evening out. So it was great to hear today from Mr. Gibson how high our kindergarten enrollment is. So that means that hopefully we won't be feeling the pain of losing those students any longer. So, and that is it. Thank you. And thank you, Anchor Bay, for hosting. I got nothing. No, I'm good.
Nothing?
Nope.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you. Okay, our next item on our...
It is a first, yes. You're right. You are absolutely right.
The next item on our agenda is the approval of We the People National Competition Budget Request. Mr. Walmsley?
Dr. Ladd and his students were here tonight. Richmond received a wild card bid to the National We the People. And I met with Dr. Ladd. It was a very short time frame. Polling each board members, we had support to support them like we do all the organizations. So I'm here excited that the board will officially approve it tonight, or I'm requesting the board officially approve it tonight so that they can go on their trip, which they've already been given the authorization to go and begin the planning process because they leave very soon. So that's all I have.
I'd like a motion, please.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve $28,144 for Dr. Ladd and the 16 Richmond High School students to attend the National We the People competition from Friday, April 21st, 2023 through Tuesday, April 25th, 2023 in Washington, D.C., for which funding from the fiscal year 2023 general fund is authorized.
Do we have a second?
Support. Whoever.
I'm gonna
Go
give it
ahead.
to Kevin.
All right.
Any discussion? I'm sorry, this is a roll call vote. Margaret? Aye. Kelly? Aye. Candace? Aye. Sandy?
Aye.
Angela?
Aye.
Deb? Aye. Motion carries.
Yay.
The date's right, though, right on that? The 21st to the 23rd? I thought it said the 21st, 23rd to the 23rd.
Nope.
No?
21st. That was softball.
In the paperwork, you can pay an extended trip, do touring down there, but Dr. Ladd was trying to keep it as...
We need them back for the play anyway.
Okay, next item on our agenda is public comments.
Those kids are in the play. I
Since the
know.
last board meeting, I had not received any emails from the public, so at this time, any member of the public may address the board. Please sign in and state your name. You will have 3 minutes to address the board. Are there any public comments? I didn't see it.
They changed it to 2.
They changed it to 2? No.
No.
It's 3. Gee, if you did, I think it's 3 minutes.
I said Beth times 2.
Oh, Beth times 2.
I'm sorry, but okay, did you say that there wasn't any
I
emails
had
that
not
you received?
received any from the public,
Okay, all right.
not our emails.
Okay.
I always, if I get any public emails, I always announce them.
Okay.
And share what we did.
It's on the side, isn't it?
Oh, yours man is Margaret.
Listen, I did it last night.
That's what you get for missing the...
I got it.
Forgot how to use the timer.
Okay, Beth, go.
So thank you for whoever contacted the high school. I think it was Mr. Walmsley to have them reach out regarding the student app. The school did reach out to me, although I guess they're going to have a meeting to let us know, us parents know whether we're going to be involved in what they're meeting our children about. The counselor said that she was going to call me, let me know after she brought it to the attention of the group. So my problem with that is that as a parent, I should know when anybody's having conversation with my child that regardless of the conversation, a parent should be involved. My kid's still underage and is still under my roof, and this is school, not home. So I do appreciate the reach out, but I do want to kind of nudge maybe Mr. Walmsley to make sure the parents get involved in that.
whether there's a parent that can be on that set board with them, since it's a soft curriculum. Just so that I know what's going on. I'm sure there's a whole ton of parents out there that want to know the conversations that are being had and just little meetings that they're having. So I kind of nudge you to let us parents know what's going on. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Do I have any other public comments?
I got to sign again?
Yeah.
Yes, please, because it's actually two different.
It's a different sheet.
Yes. Thank you.
Excuse me.
First, I want to commend, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. What you spoke about during the first public comment, 100% agree. I definitely think looking into that, sorry.
Okay, you need to address them.
So, looking into what she spoke about, definitely need to look into it, because I, as a parent, don't feel comfortable with someone speaking to my child about anything that should be spoken at home. And especially now that I know that she's not a licensed counselor, I really don't want her speaking to my child. So I'll be calling the middle school tomorrow, making sure that she's not allowed to speak to my child. Another note, I wish I would have known about the Oxford thing, because I've spoken about going to Oxford and having them do something with our school. I would have loved to join you. I mean, we're not good friends, but it would have been nice maybe for everyone in our district to know about it. So I think, the next time it comes around, definitely posting it on our school's Facebook page would really benefit not only our community, but the Oxford community as well, because then it just gets more people out there to support them. I had more, but because I don't have anything written down, I'm a little mind blank. So I guess just try to look more into getting a curriculum for the student advocate and working more towards helping our kids understand the fact that if they make a threat, they will be in trouble. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, thank you very much. This time, before we go into closed session, we will be coming back out, but just to adjourn, so we will not be doing any further business. So I am looking for a motion at this time to go into closed session.
Pursuant to Section 8C of the Michigan Open Meetings Act, I move that the Board of Education go into closed session for the purposes of negotiations.
Support.
What's that?
Me. Thank you, Margaret. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.